Good evening. I'd like to call to order tonight's meeting, Monday, February 27th. It's the Board of Education 3S meeting being held here tonight at Township High School District 113's Highland Park High School. So may I have a call, after call to order, a roll call, please?
Ms. Albert?
Here.
Ms. Gordon?
Here.
Ms. Hyman?
Here.
Ms. Wabi?
Here.
Ms. Meyer?
Here.
Ms. Littleworth?
Here, thank you. Could we go around the table, and please could everyone else introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Sue Hepson, Assistant Superintendent of Instruction and Communication.
Christopher Dignam, Superintendent.
Sandra Hasso, Executive Secretary to the Superintendent.
Tiffany Chavez, Director of Student Support Services.
Catherine Anderson, Principal at Deerfield.
Mary Holmes, Superintendent.
Andrea Johnson, Director of Energy and Grants. Christina Zales, Director of Communications and Instructional Technology.
Granger, Director of Human Resources.
Yeah. Okay. Before we start tonight's meeting and the approval of our agenda and our regular agenda, I would like to read a statement because, as you all know, we've had some big news this week at Highland Park High School and District 113. We'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate Dr. Tom Colentus on his new position as principal of Libertyville High School, effective July 1st, 2017. We've received a number of inquiries from stakeholders regarding Dr. Colentus' decision to leave District 113 for District 128. We feel it's necessary to provide some information regarding the board and district's actions concerning this news. Our superintendent did offer to extend Dr. Colentus' current contract in October 2016. However, we only learned of Dr. Colentus' decision and acceptance to leave District 113 last week. At this juncture, we fully support Dr. Colentus' decision and respect his opportunity for personal and professional growth. Dr. Colentus has been with District 113 since 1995. He has served as a teacher, a bilingual program director, an athletic coach, an assistant principal, an interim principal, and our principal. We appreciate his commitment to the district for 22 years. To Highland Park High School, the community, the staff, and most of all, his commitment to the education and well-being of our students. Beginning this week, we will initiate the search for a new principal. Dr. Colentus has been a collaborative partner and has vowed to continue to be so by serving as a resource during the search process. We are fortunate that Dr. Colentus will continue to serve as Highland Park's principal until the end of the school year and will spend these next few months seeing to the completion of an excellent academic year for our students and our community. We celebrate Dr. Colentus and his many achievements in our district. So, is Dr. Colentus in here? Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, he was going to be here for the beginning. I'm sorry, I didn't even realize he wasn't here, but I would say we wanted to stand and recognize him and give him an applause. So maybe when he comes in, we can do that. Okay, sorry. I got thrown off my game a little here. In any event, at this point, I'd like to move to approve the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Abstentions? Motion passes. At this point, citizens' comments that are relative to matters on the meeting agenda. We welcome your comments and questions, and we give them serious consideration. Pursuant to Board of Education Policy 2-230, the first comment period is solely for comments about matters on tonight's meeting agenda. Before you deliver your comment, please identify yourself and state the agenda item to which your comment is directed. The second comment period is for comments about any matter. Please limit the length of all comments to no more than 2 minutes. We will do our best to address your questions during the relevant agenda item discussion. For non-agenda related questions or for questions that require additional response time, we will follow up with you as well as report back at the next board meeting. Are there any citizens' comments? Please state your name and either your address or your community and to which item this is relevant.
Alicia de la Cruz, and I'm coming to talk about Mr. Colentus leaving.
Okay, well, one of the reasons that I did a statement tonight is because there is nothing on the agenda at this juncture on Dr. Colentus, but we'll go forward with that. So thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to be brief. I'm the founder. I am the founder and coordinator of Working Together, a nonprofit organization, that offers enrichment activities and services here at the Highland Park High School for low-income families in the community. Every Saturday for almost 9 years, I have come to the school with my family and other volunteers to offer classes to the low-income families in the community: ballet, taekwondo, swimming, just to mention a few. Every Saturday, more than 70 families come to this school, our school. For 9 years, our families have known that this is a safe and reliable place because they know that there is someone who has always listened and supported us. Perhaps you don't see many of us here frequently, but on Saturdays, our school is full. I'm here tonight after we received the sad news that Dr. Thomas Colentus will be leaving at the end of the school year. We would love to ask him to stay because he has been supporting our kids and families in so many ways. However, we understand he is leaving for a different opportunity for himself and his family. I'm here to express my voice and the voices of many families who are here today to ask you to consider some of the needs of the community as you prefer to look for a person who will take Dr. Colentus' chair. For many years, Dr. Colentus had been the column of our group, the support of our families, the person with whom we identify ourselves and in whom we found an ally. He not only speaks our language, but he has known many of our current high school students since they were 3 or 4 years old. Dr. Colentus has opened the doors of our school and his office, so our families know that they are welcome here, that all children are the same, no matter who they are or where they come from. They will be welcome, they will be included, and they will belong. My daughter was a little giant when she attended preschool here, and she is now a hip-hop giant in our Dancer to Dancer program. Many of our kids are tech giants in our Scratch program, and all of them know they will be future giants thanks to Dr. Colentus. Dr. Colentus had taken the time to meet us, talk to us, and he is well known among our children. His support and commitment is invaluable and irreplaceable. We are asking you to take all of this in consideration when seeking for a new principal. Mrs. Gordon had come to visit our program. I would like to invite all of you, all the members of the board, to come on a Saturday and meet our families, to see the things that we have accomplished as one family now, thanks to Dr. Colentus. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Colentus.
I don't think I'm allowed to respond, but I'm just going to say thank you very, very much. It was very emotional, and I'm going to hold it together here and not cry. So thank you.
So Tom, you missed
Gracias
all
por
the
venir
accolades.
esta noche. Y yo prometo a mi esposa no llores esta noche, ¿ok?
So in addition, Tom, you did miss your accolades. I called for a standing ovation, but you weren't here yet, so you got it a little later. But
I was
anyhow,
bringing down your dinners. Board, you have dinners over there. So,
in any event, thank you so much, all of you, for coming. Are there any other citizens' comments before we move to our presentations for this evening?
I'm going to keep this brief because I spoke at the last meeting. So I'm Susan Jensen. I have, I'm not supposed to say anything else, right? Just my name?
Your name and your community.
Okay, so I'm in Deerfield, and I have 5 kids, each at every single age level from elementary to college. And last meeting, I did speak on the calendar changing and the vote. And my son did write a letter. He's a junior, so it doesn't affect him. He wrote a letter that I'm assuming the entire board got. He did said he got a response. He wanted to come and read it, but he had track, hockey, and a bunch of homework to do, so he's not able to be here, but he had two of the student council members on his behalf who were going to read it, but I just wanted to reiterate that moving finals, in my opinion, to before winter break is just moving the stress earlier and not really in the best interest of the well-being of the students' stress level. So, Rachel and Matthew.
Dear District 113 board members, my name is Tyler Jensen and I am currently a junior at Deerfield High School. I am writing to you to give you an opinion from a student regarding the proposed calendar change. Myself and many students took the survey about moving finals to before winter break and thought it sounded like a great idea and meant less school, less work, and less testing. By the end of the survey, I realized that it would actually mean moving finals to before winter break changes the current culture at DHS. The sense of fine arts, community, and giving that is at DHS in December would instead become 3 weeks of unnecessary stress. An effort to reduce stress will instead increase stress and have the opposite effect than what I think is intended. Final exams, being the week of MLK Day, give students 3 weeks of class after getting back from winter break to prepare for final exams. Having the Monday off of school prior is also an extra day to prepare for finals. December finals changes the sense of fine arts, community, and giving that is at DHS in December into the 3 weeks of stress. School chess will not be the same being moved out of December because we would have to be on the tails of HP Charity Drive, and we do get donations from many of the same places, families, and businesses.
School chess at DHS involves the entire student body and staff, even if they are not directly involved in the planning of the charity drive. It is 3 weeks that the entire school and community pulls together as one for a cause and chance to give back. This year we raised $168,000, 322, and are the sole biggest fundraiser ever for a rare genetic disease, propionic acidemia, that took the life of one of our own classmates. If school chess is not held during these giving weeks between Thanksgiving and winter break, our impact will depreciate and diminish. Finals are stressful no matter when they are given, but moving them to December will not change or help reduce the stress. It will instead place the current culture with added stress. Please consider voting to keep the current calendar in place by having finals the week of the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday in January, so my younger brothers and sister, as well as future students, can have the same amazing experience that my older sister and I have had at DHS. Thank you very much for taking the time to read and consider this. Respectfully, Tyler Jensen.
Are there any other citizens' comments?
Hi, I'm Bob Frank. I'm a parent of a Deerfield freshman. Thank you for having me again. I'm speaking on the calendar item. I spoke with it at the last meeting, and I appreciate the time to speak again. I have notes this time. I didn't know what to expect last time. And I just have a few points that I hope you'll consider. First and foremost, that if we do make this change in moving finals before winter break, I believe that you'll see that you're moving finals from the least busy and least stressful month of the year, January, to December, which is perhaps one of the busiest and most occupied months of the year. Second, the calendar data presentation, are they here? The data was very impressive. And I've spent a great deal of time thinking about it because it completely did not match my intuition on what the results would be. I might totally be an outlier, but I don't think I am. But I hope you will consider one thought I had. I'm not sure that the raw data means exactly what it seems like it means, because the survey was worded in a very clear, very plain, and very objective way, which is how you want a survey to be written. However, I think it may have actually caused people to underestimate the results, the impact of what they were being surveyed about. I spoke to 2 neighbors, and just purely anecdotally, that might really be a factor. Third, the years 2020, 2021, and 2022. Please look at the calendars. You'll see that Christmas falls, respectively, and New Year's on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and that will make scheduling more difficult. I believe I heard at the last meeting that other districts that have started to move, Stevenson and New Trier, forgive me, I don't remember, but it was mentioned, that their finals were immediately the week after winter break and the week after that. And as opposed to our finals, which have always been at MLK week, which has a several-week buffer. I can truly believe that those students were suffering a great deal of stress over winter break, not having adequate time to prepare between the end of winter break and finals. Our students are very lucky and have had, I think, a very good amount of time to prepare after they come back well rested from winter break. Furthermore, many students will be, of course, celebrating Hanukkah during what a new finals window would be. And lastly, please forgive me, I don't remember the name of the other committee that was studying other stress reduction techniques, but I believe there's another report coming. I truly believe that these are bookends and that no final decision should be made until you have all the data and all the facts. So once again, I appreciate the time to speak, and I hope that you will, at the very least, weigh all the facts before making a decision, ideally leaving finals where they are. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens' comments? If not, we will move on to the District 113 Foundation presentation. Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to have reports by the student representatives. Rachel Rappaport and Matthew Swill from DHS, please.
Hi, I'm Matthew Swell,
I'm Rachel Rappaport.
and we're co-officers of Deerfield High School Student Council. So recently, in the Deerfield High School community, our sports have been striving. Deerfield Wrestling this past weekend placed 4th in the team state competition, which is the first time ever placing this high in that competition. And also individually, Holden Heller placed 4th in state as well. They won the regional championship for the 3rd year in a row, and they have been conference champions for 9 years in a row. In addition, our boys swimming qualified for 7 of 12 events at the state competition and finished 13th. And finally, the boys basketball will have their first playoff game versus Maine South Wednesday night, hosted at Niles West, and they look to make a deep playoff run like they did last year.
Coming up on March 12th, we have Operation Home, which stands for Helping Others Means Everything. This is Student Council's day of service. We go out and do a bunch of community service and volunteering opportunities. It's open to the whole school, so anyone can sign up. Key Club often helps out. We get teams to do it together. It's all non-monetary, voluntary opportunities, trying to do something a little bit different than school chess once a year. So some of the things we do are volunteering at local places like the Center for Enriched Living, Cashit, Project Linus, Brentwood, and the local food pantry, among others.
This past Friday was the Warrior Buddies basketball game. This was the 2nd year that it has been an all-school assembly. It was actually very nice to see the whole school get together because that's a very rare occasion. And it was just amazing school spirit held by the students in the stands and as well as the students helping the buddies on the floor. And the buddies actually, you could sense the amount of pride and joy that they had at this game with the Warrior dance team performing at halftime as well as the marching band.
This Friday, March 3rd, we have our 2nd annual dance marathon, which is hosted by the Warrior dance team. It's from 6 to 11 at Deerfield. The proceeds this year are going to the Charles Horn III Sickle Cell Program at La Rabida Children's Hospital. It's a really fun event with a DJ, food, and tons of dancing throughout the night. It was a big success last year, so we're very excited to go again this year.
Thank you.
Lauren Schneiderman, Highland Park High School.
Hi, my name is Lauren Schneiderman, and I'm Vice President of Highland Park High School Student Senate. Thank you. Once first semester finals are completed, I feel like the months of February and March fly by. There are so many things happening at Highland Park High School that keep the Giants busy 24/7. Many of our winter sports teams are completing their seasons. Both the boys and girls basketball teams celebrated their senior nights along with the Poms and Jammers dance teams that cheer them on. The boys swim team completed their season at state last weekend, where senior Levi Nathan finished third in the 500 freestyle. This Saturday, March 4th, from 7 to 10 p.m., HPHS will once again host its spring dance, Giants in Candyland. We can't wait to see all of our students dressed up and having a good time. Since it is February, the main thing that I'm thinking about is Charity Drive. I can't believe how fast the month has flown by, and I am so proud of how HPHS has come together to raise money for such a good cause, and that it's a cause that's very hard to talk about. The Zacharias Center for Sexual Abuse is amazing to work with, and I can't wait to work with them for another week and work with them hopefully in further years. Every event, from the silent auction to the chili cook-off to dodgeball, reasserts the spirit of Charity Drive and the importance of what our school is doing. As we are entering our last week, I want to reflect on some of the great events we've had and what's in store for the last week. This past weekend, on Friday, was the Harlem Wizards basketball game, where we got a bunch of kids from all over the community to come and watch a great game of basketball. On Saturday, we had our annual dodgeball tournament, where a bunch of groups of kids from school came in dodgeball teams and battled for the victory. We also had our Soul Cycle event, where we had about 45 students Soul Cycle at the North Shore location for a charity drive. And tonight was the Backyard Grill Food Night, so if you still go till 9 o'clock and mention Charity Drive, proceeds do go to Charity Drive. Tomorrow night in here at 5 o'clock is Yoga Night with Steffi Fallberg, who's teaching a yoga class for the whole community. And it's also Marco's Northside Grill Food Night in Highwood, and if you mention Charity Drive, the proceeds do go to Charity Drive. Wednesday at 6 o'clock in the exhibition gym is our annual staff variety show, where we get to see some of our staff do some awesome things. I don't even know what they're going to do. I guess I have to see. And Thursday night, we are finishing off Charity Drive with a Corner Bakery Food Night in Northbrook Court. And then Friday, we have, I believe, a Super Smash Bros. Video game tournament. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm so excited I'm so excited to be part of this amazing month, and I look forward to last week, and I hope everyone in the community can find their way to get involved with our charity drive. It's so awesome, and I'm so proud to be part of it. Thank you.
Our teacher representative tonight is Sarah Toplinsky.
Good evening, everyone. It's been a while since I've been here to report for Deerfield High School, and we've had a lot of exciting things happening. The Deerfield High School Band and Orchestra, under the direction of Dan Brame and Ron Valor, just completed a very successful tour of San Diego. In total, 113 students and 14 parent chaperones left in the early hours of February 17th and flew to the coast. They performed outdoor concerts on the deck of the USS Midway aircraft carrier and in the Spreckles Oregon Pavilion at Balboa Park. They also visited San Diego State University to work with their faculty and had an exchange with the music students at Scripps Ranch High School. When not performing, they visited the San Diego Art Museum, Cabrillo National Monument, Old Town San Diego, and Mission Beach, and they took in a performance of the musical Freaky Friday. The students played very well and represented our district and community with class every step of the way. Jigvora, Deerfield High School Political Club, reported that Scott Drury, state senator, will be speaking to the political club at 7:30 a.m. tomorrow. Marty Esker, DHS WYSE sponsor, reported that they were recently named regional champions. They scored a very impressive 497.4 out of 500 points. Melissa Romero Williams, sponsor of the Deerfield Guerreros, reported that on February 17th, the Deerfield Guerreros held a pachanga, a social gathering as part of the lead up to the annual Chicano College Bowl in April, where they focus on leadership and empowerment of our Latino students. The event is intended to expand on the great opportunity that the Chicano College Bowl has provided for our Latino students and those of the surrounding communities. 100 students from 6 area high schools participated in the event, including Grayslake Central High School, Grayslake North, BG, York High School, John Hersey High School, and Highland Park High School. Our awesome student representatives spoke about the athletic highlights this week, so I'm going to pass over that. They also talked about the dance marathon that's taking place this Friday night. I personally am very excited and will be bringing my 2.5-year-old to bust out her dance moves to support this awesome cause. There has been a lot of great staff recognition in our building that I want to share with all of you. Sarah Campbell has been chosen to present a session about mindful movement in the Shape America Conference happening in Boston from March 14th to the 17th. This was a big privilege as there was a large pool of applicants and a rigorous screening process by a committee to decide who will be presenting, and there will be approximately 9,000 people attending the conference. Ryan Rakaitis, on February 16th and 17th, he was one of 5 Illinois language educators who participated in language advocacy days in Washington, D.C. Ryan met with staff members from the offices of Senator Durbin, Senator Duckworth, Representative Schneider, and Representative Schakowsky, requesting their support for language education through measures such as the full funding of ESSA and support of the Paul Simon Study Abroad Program Act and the World Language Advancement Act. A pleasant surprise for Ryan was that 2 of the staffers with whom Ryan met with were graduates of Deerfield High School. We've had a lot of activity in the English department. Christine Saxman will be leading a workshop called College and Racial Consciousness as part of New Trier's Understanding Today's Struggle for Racial Civil Rights Seminar Day. The day features 2 award-winning keynotes, Colson Whitehead and Andrew Aiden. Jeff Berger-White is a faculty associate of Bard's College Institute for Writing and Thinking. He leads workshops for teachers at Bard and sometimes does on-site visits for schools. Recently, Jeff led a workshop for the high school English department at the American School in London. The focus of the workshop was on helping teachers integrate daily writing into their classrooms and to reimagine the kinds of essays they wanted their students to produce by the end of grade 12. Last month, I personally had the pleasure of attending the Chicagoland Area Literacy Leaders Conference. It was held at Lake Forest High School. The conference was titled Building a Community of Readers, and throughout the day I had the opportunity to collaborate with literacy coaches, reading specialists, reading teachers, and administrators from many of our surrounding high schools. And I was exposed to different reading workshop models, as well as 3 different breakout sessions that focused on creating a reader identity, inquiry-based reading workshop, and summer reading. It was really an awesome experience. And, okay, academics, we have a lot happening in our classrooms. Poetry Out Loud was recently held at Deerfield High School. Michael Wolf, English teacher, has organized this event, and it's awesome because it encourages students to learn about great poetry through memorization and recitation. It helps students master public speaking skills, build confidence, and learn about literary history and contemporary life. Poetry Out Loud uses a pyramid structure that starts at the classroom level. Winners advance to a state competition, then regional state competition, then ultimately to the national finals. So we started off with 1,000 Deerfield High School students competing in their English classes. We then narrowed the group down to the top 16 students. I was a judge for the semifinals, and I have to tell you the competition and just the talent was amazing. From those 16, junior Claire Metzger was this year's champion, and Claire went on to finish in 3rd place in the Poetry Out Loud Metro Regional Competition, which makes her an alternate for the state competition. And Christine Saxman is her English teacher, so we're very proud of Claire. Since Poetry Out Loud was such a huge success, Elliot Hertig then organized the first ever Poetry Slam at Deerfield High School. That took place last Thursday. Over 30 students attended, and several students shared their original poems in front of a live audience. On February 15th, the library hosted guest author Beth Rivas. Beth Rivas is a young adult author who is best known for her science fiction trilogy, Across the Universe. In addition to her science fiction titles, Ms. Rivas has also written a semi-autobiographical novel blending the supernatural with mental illness. Several English classes read Rivas' short story, Love is a Choice, to prepare for her visit. And then after meeting with different classes, Mrs. Rivas stayed after school to meet with the book club for more intimate conversations. Howie Citron from the Deerfield High School Science Department reported that him and Lindsay Polite took their 7th period physics survey class to Kipling for a collaboration with their 4th grade students. The 4th graders were learning about energy through motion and collisions, and they built mini Ruby Goldberg machines with our students acting as mentors through the process. And last but not least, yesterday was the Illinois High School Art Exhibition, and we had a number of winners at this event. This is a best of the best visual arts competition in Illinois, so just being in the show is a high honor. Cassidy Jackson took home the biggest honors, winning Best in Show Award in the design category and a silver award in the Senior Scholarship Exhibition, both of which included over $1,000 in monetary and product awards. And she also received numerous tuition scholarship offers from various universities, totaling well over $200,000. And we had many other students who were honored at this event. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our principal report tonight is by Kathy Anderson from Deerfield High School.
Sarah did a really great job, so a lot of what I have to say is going to be echoing what Sarah just said. So I just want to start off by congratulating a lot of our coaches and sponsors for the phenomenal work that they've been doing. I had the honor and privilege to actually attend a lot of these events, so I spent my Saturday in Bloomington with all of our wrestlers and coaches and parents, and it was just a phenomenal experience to be with the student athletes as they won their 4th place trophy. They worked so very hard. And so congratulations to Coach Proctor, the students, and all their parents for going to all those events over their many years that they've been involved. A big congratulations to Coach John Sullivan, whose team was at New Trier this past weekend and had phenomenal, it was just a phenomenal event for everybody. And if you've been to New Trier lately, they have a lot of construction going on, so we all know that feeling. So it was interesting to get around there. But congratulations to Coach Sullivan and all of the students and parents for all of their work and their efforts this year. I'd like to congratulate sponsor Marty Escar and the WYSC team for their regional championship. Hopefully we can bring a trophy and put it in the main lobby right next to the wrestling, right? Congratulations to Coach McKendrick and the boys basketball for their conference championship, and we're looking forward to many wins down the road for them. Congratulations to Michael Wolf and the Poetry Slam participants. Phenomenal that Claire Metzger was able to go on for her 3rd place finish. Just a phenomenal showing for us, and that goes to show for what Elliot Hurtig put on with all the students participating at the school level as well. So thank you to him for that. And a special congratulations to our students who participated in the ISHAE art exhibit this past weekend. And if you weren't aware, Chris Sikora, one of our teachers, is actually the assistant director for the board of directors for ISHAE. So he was actually the MC yesterday presenting all of the awards. And so it was a little bit extra special for our students to be able to receive their awards from him. So thank you for all of his hard work to put all of that together. And if you've never been able to go see that, I highly recommend it going in the future. It is the most amazing artwork that you've ever seen. So they are just phenomenal students. I'd like to give a thank you to B. Wagner and Kelsey Kuhn, 2 of our teachers at DHS who organized this year's Warrior Buddies basketball game, and Mike Moran for passing on the torch to these 2 teachers because he previously was the one who organized. And it was just a phenomenal event, and thank you to HP for being part of the basketball game, and it is truly a district-wide game, and it is the most positive, experiences, I think, of the school in addition to school chess. It's just such a wonderful experience. I'd like to thank Melissa Romero-Williams and Liz Robertson for putting on the amazing Pachanga event. They did not know how many students that they would be having at this event, and all of a sudden they had over 100 students, and they didn't know what they were going to do. And they pulled it off, and it was such a great event, and the students were, they said that the students just had a fabulous time at the event. I'd like to thank our librarians, Lori Williams and Marissa Fiorito, for putting on the author event. This is the first time in many years that we had an author at our library. So it was a really great event for students to be able to meet her, and she even tweeted about coming to DHS and how she had such a great time. And I would like to just say right now, like at Highland Park, we have a lot of things going on. We have spring athletic tryouts and practices going on, and we are in the final weeks of preparation for Addams Family, which will be going on March 8th through the 11th, so get your tickets soon so you can come see that wonderful event. And if you have not seen our auditorium in a while, you will see how they have really transformed it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And sorry, I have to pass it over to Tom. He's part of my conversation.
Just, I wanted to take 1 minute and thank you, Kathy, for giving me a minute of your report. I just want to thank the Board of Ed and the community who came out tonight for the kind statement of support and an action of support. As principal, you hope one person is sad when you leave and that one person says thank you. And I just want to assure you all that I have been absolutely blown away this week by the outpouring of love and support for me. My cup runneth over, and it is truly humbling. Y a todos mis amigos aquí, latinos, y de la programa Working Together, gracias por venir esta noche, y gracias por todo el apoyo ustedes me han dado durante los últimos años. Les quiero todos, y cuando yo no trabajaré aquí, quedo aquí en Highland Park a vivir, y mis niños asisten a esta escuela. Entonces, voy a continuar trabajando por todos nuestros niños y trabajando con ustedes por las causas que son muy importantes por toda la comunidad. Gracias por siempre tratando a entender mi español. Es muy gringo y feo, entiendo, pero ustedes tienen mucha paciencia. Y ustedes todos mis amigos, ¿sí? Y es como familia. Y prometo que voy a trabajar con Dr. Dignam a encontrar un principal nuevo que pueden trabajar por todos los niños en nuestra comunidad, ¿sí? Y por todas las familias. Y esta reunión esta noche dura 2-3 horas. Yo conozco que muchos los niños tienen tarea, ustedes no necesitan quedar por todo el reunión esta noche. Gracias otra vez por sus palabras y su amor, y nos vemos en sábado. Gracias.
Okay, we're going to move on to superintendent reports. Thank you, Tom and Kathy.
Thank you. Good evening. I have 3 updates regarding FOIA requests. On January 24th, 2017, we received a FOIA request from Angel Rodriguez regarding electronic communications. The matter is still pending. The initial request has voluntarily narrowed twice. We are in the process of searching for materials that are responsive to the most recent request. On February 13th, 2017, we received a request from Lindsay Halloran for copies of certified payroll records. We responded in a timely manner. On February 14th, 2017, we received a request from Mr. Robert Itzko for records related to the athletics program at Deerfield High School. We requested an extension of time to which to respond to the request, and will respond in a timely fashion. 2 brief updates. One, I want to thank Dr. Clentus and your administrative team for hosting this event here this evening, as well as our own member here in the district, central office team, and that is Dan Mortensen for helping put these tours together, making this work out. I know we just got this open right now, and so we hit every goal we wanted for tonight, so I know there's a lot of work, and congratulations and thank you. With that in mind, I want to mention a couple of items here to discuss ways that we may be considering either a ribbon cutting ceremony in the future or any other type of reception. In working with Dan Mortensen, who is our facilities director, he has been working with Perkins and Will, but primarily Gilbane, for placement of permanent commemorative plaques at both Deerfield High School and Highland Park High School. There are mock-up plaques that will be put up temporarily to have an idea of what they may look like, and those plaques have been placed here at at Highland Park High School as well as Deerfield High School for that tour. The mock-up design will be shared with board members to make suggested design modifications to ensure when the permanent plaques are cast, and that will occur later this summer or in the fall, that the plaques accurately reflect board perspectives on the names included on those to memorialize the referendum. And my second item I would like to mention, as noted earlier this evening, our principal, Dr. Colentis from Highland Park High School, has notified us that he has been offered and accepted a position of principal at Libertyville High School, effective July 1st, 2017. So I would be remiss if I did not state the following, and some of this may embarrass you, Dr. Colentis, but that's okay because I know that you have a sense of humor and have done that many times to me. I first had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Colentis almost exactly 2 years ago. It was in February of 2015 when it was first announced that both Dr. Colentis and I were going to be contract principals at Deerfield High School and Highland Park, respectively. Dr. Colentis' first words, it was in this room actually, you were with your family and I was with mine, and you walked up to me because we had never met and said, "You are my new BFF." And we exchanged our cell numbers, and Dr. Colentis came to visit me at my old school, and then I came here to visit you and had a tour of your referendum, and I was in the middle of a referendum project myself, and so we shared some more stories there, which I will not forget. During the winter and spring of that year, we continued to maintain contact, and I believe what has developed into a strong working relationship and a friendship. One of the reasons I felt comfortable applying to be superintendent, and Dr. Colentis will remember this, I called up Dr. Colentis and asked if we could meet for a burger and a beverage, and he agreed. And I stated to him outside of my wife, I wanted to share with him I was thinking about putting my name in to be superintendent. What were his thoughts? And one reason I wanted to do so is because I felt comfortable knowing that I would be working with Dr. Colentis well into the future. And so as a former principal myself, I understand how trying it is and difficult it may be to make a decision to leave a school and a district that you've been part of for a very long time. I can empathize with that, and what I want to say is, selfishly, that I am going to miss working with Dr. Colentis immensely, but we have spoken about remaining in contact in the future, and I personally support your decision to continue growing as a professional and make measured changes for professional reasons and for your family. So at this time, I just want to congratulate you, Tom, and wish you well in all your endeavors. Thank you.
Can I ask Barb Sereda and Susie Wexler to please join us at the podium? I'm not going to bother introducing the 113 Foundation of presenters because I think you've got that under control.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, I'm Susie Wexler. I'm one of the co-presidents of the District 113 Education Foundation.
Despite the fact that she's wearing giant blue, she's a Deerfield High School parent. My name is Barb Sereda. I have my third child is graduating this year, God willing, and I have been co-president of the 113 Foundation now for over 3 years with Susie. Each year we do the state of the foundation at the board meeting, and for those of you who are not familiar with our organization, just a little bit of background, we were formed about 10 years ago, and our mission is to enrich and enhance education at both high schools by promoting and supporting innovative educational programming. And we do that through grants to teachers and staff. So we're a little different than the PTO because all we do is grants. And it's a wonderful, wonderful job that we wear, hat that we wear. And One thing we have learned over the years is we've raised over about $250,000 in 10 years and supported close to 200 grants. So we really feel good about our mission. But one of the things we've learned is that you cannot have mission without margin. And I drew the short straw tonight because I get to talk about margin. And Susie gets to do a deep dive into mission. We're just going to skim the surface of margin because those of you who know my math skills. In any event, this year we had an amazing year. We raised over $30,000 through a variety of means, including a Hamilton fundraiser, which we thought we were buying too many tickets when we bought 250, and boy, were we wrong. We could have used another 3,000. But as a result of Hamilton, as well as several outreaches to alumni and to the community members, as well as Pizza Bowl, and I know some of you go to our Pizza Bowl. I know, Tom, you're invited for next year. You can bring as many Libertyville citizens as you want. We would love it. And this year we also, as we had done in the past, we included bakers as well, and we had over 16 vendors. We can't have margin without our human resources, and unlike most foundations that serve high schools, we are a completely volunteer organization. We do not have a paid staff. And so I would like to honor right now our board members who do the work of a paid staff, quite frankly. Margie Sandlow, if you could stand. Yumi Ross. Judy Lupke, who is our Deerfield High School board liaison, teacher liaison. Debbie Finn, who is our Highland Park High School liaison. And Elena Lauby, who is our liaison to the board, but she also serves on the board. As well as Dr. Dignam, who is actually a board member and as well. So thank you so much. We could not have done it without you. I want to also do a major shout out to Margie because Margie's the chair of our development committee. And one of the reasons I think we've been able to grow so much financially is her leadership in really reaching out to corporate sponsors and alumni and really taking that as her charge. So thank you so much, Margie. It's made a huge difference. I'd also like to take a moment to thank some of the 113 staff because Barry Bullock and his staff have been very helpful to us. Thank you so much. Yeah, we couldn't do it without you. He has a much better command of finances than certainly I do. And I'd also like to thank Christine Gonzalez, who has really helped us a lot this year. Thank you, Christine, with PR and everyone else who has supported us. It really does take a village when you're purely volunteer, and so we thank the board as well as the principals as well who have been very kind and just supporting us along the way and also alternately hosting Pizza Bowl and Baker's Cup. So thank you so much for your leadership. As a result of our great fundraising, I'm happy to say that our grant expense allocation this year was significantly higher than last year. Typically, we allocate about $20,000 for grants, but this year we allocated over $30,000 for grants. That was spread over 13 grants, and I'm happy to say that we were able to fund every single grant that was requested that fell within our mission. So we feel really, really good about that, and we were able to do it in full as well. One note I will make as before Susie does her deep dive is that we experienced this year our first ever signature grant, which was a grant that was significantly greater than a typical grant. Typically our grants run about anywhere from $500 to $2,000, but this year we had a $19,000 grant, and that was allocated to the FUSE process, which is this incredible program that Tom actually brought to the high school. And it involves STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And it's going to be amazing. And it's not only going to just touch on high school students, but Susie will expand on it, but it also is going to include middle school students as well. So we're very happy to report that we are doing great. Our current net worth is $132,000 as compared with $120,000 from last year. So thank you so much. And with that, I will leave margin and go to mission. And Susie is going to introduce our incredible grant recipients for this year.
So I'd like to just take a quick minute and introduce this year's grants. And if you're here, if you could stand up, because the teachers who write these grants are the inspirations. It means that they have an idea for innovation that they are going to trickle out through their classroom, and that's exactly, I mean, that's the gift to this district. What I'd like to do, though, is go through the grants for this year very quickly, because then we are honored to actually have grant recipients from last year who get to show us the amazing things that were accomplished with last year's grants. And I'm going to assume everybody in this room can go on the website and read more in detail. So we're just going to do a real quick shout out to this year's grants. I'm going to start with DHS because I want to end with the Fuse grant. This year's DHS grants are Qualitative Assessment of Metabolic Pathways by John Motzko, a Mosaic grant from the Counseling Department at DHS, Amy Bricker, Sue Lee, Marcellus Moore, and Melissa Romero-Williams. Writers Week Festival with Ryan Least. Our Food Science Equipment Lending Library with Lisa Backus and Diane Rondeau. The RAD, Rape, Aggression, Defense, Self-Defense with John Campbell. SSR Station, I know, or spouse. Chrissy Peterson's SSR Station. And then Kristen Fine and Julie Sampson for the Senior Prom After Party for DHS. Our HP grants are Cooking to Learn, a life skill, Liz Martin, Mike Harrison, and Katrina Ptolemy. The Interactive Narrative Arc with Erin Fay, and you'll be hearing that name again in just a minute. Focus on the Arts Special Education Workshop with Jody Weinberg, who couldn't be here tonight. She had a family situation, as did Deb Wilson, whose STEMW Outreach CS for All grant. And our signature grant, the Fuse Lab from Tom Colentes, which we're super excited to be a part of. Thank you so much for bringing that opportunity to our district. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is to bring up Erin Fay and Bill Stafford and give them each a few minutes to talk about their grants from last year and how that was able to inspire and change learning for a lot of people. Come on up. You guys can flip a coin for who goes first.
So I'm Bill Stafford. I'm a science teacher at Deerfield High School. This is my 13th year. And so I teach light. I teach physics. I teach honors earth science. And so light is this pervasive topic that we always get into. All right, the electromagnetic spectrum. So, but we're so blind to what we think of when we think of what we see, right? We're kind of stuck to visible light. And I'm not going to totally nerd out. My wife told me, don't nerd out. So I'm under some strict parameters here. So I thought that, well, why don't we start changing our perspective of how we see the world? And this is an infrared camera. And we're essentially pretty much blind to what we think of in terms of what we see. We're kind of stuck in the visible light world. And when you start seeing things from different perspectives in the context of infrared, or essentially heat energy, the world looks a little bit different. And I think that this is kind of a microcosm of what I feel like what my teaching practice is and what I feel like is going to influence a lot of students, hundreds to hopefully thousands of students. It changes perspective. It allows you to see a little bit more, a little bit better, and a little bit deeper. And I think that these are the interactions with the students that they remember these experiences a heck of a lot more than a lecture or something else, to where they come to class and they have some forgettable experience. These are memorable experiences. And I think they really, truly appreciate it. And this is my first year I've gotten to do and really show the bandwidth of what this really cool camera, you might be surprised, there's a hefty price tag on it. And I feel like the District 113 Foundation was supportive in the innovative clause, and you know, in my classroom, the educational aspect, this is going to touch a lot of students in throughout the entire Deerfield High School community. So a heartfelt thank you to that. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Erin Fay, and I teach science at Highland Park High School, and I received a foundation grant. Now, we get to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit and shows you what your money gets. I run a group called Skunk Works, which is a bunch of kids who like building stuff that just, you know what, it doesn't fit in class at all. And so the foundation supplied us with some money, and yeah, we're getting to build stuff. By the way, the term Skunk Works refers to a division of Lockheed Martin back in the day. The SR-71, the Blackbird, is a product of the Skunk Works Foundation. Basically, Lockheed Martin just threw money at a bunch of engineers and said, what cool stuff can you do? And they built the world's best spy plane in the world. So my students and I, we get together and we kind of talk about interesting scenarios. And originally we started with this idea of a narrative arc, where basically I throw challenges at them and then they incorporate them into a story. And it fell upon the end of the world as we know it is dying. How would you change your life? And so I think I had some students who were in the zombie apocalypse, another set of students, the rules of the universe changed, and so we played games kind of around those. At the end, I would love to have a document or a graphic novel or something creative that these students come up with. But you know what? It doesn't stop there. My students saw this on Outrageous Acts of Science, and we're currently working on what's called an augmented reality sandbox. Now, it sounds, basically, University of California developed software that you have a sandbox, but you have a camera pointing down at it, taking pictures of it 60 times a second. And when it does that, you can do some interesting things with the information. Ms. Gonzalez?
This is our augmented reality sandbox. It was developed originally by researchers at UC Davis. We're going to be using it here at UCLA to help students learn about topography, so they can take a topographic map in the classroom, try to recreate the features by manipulating sand. I can, take one mound, make it into two mounds. I can make it rain over the top of this, and I can see how the water flows down the sides of the hills. Push that material up in here. That water wants to go somewhere else. Now it's going to float it through this channel into our reservoir below. So when the students are out in the field and they don't have a sandbox to recreate what they have on the map, they can recreate in their head. They can build a mental model and identify where they're at, identify certain features in the area.
Okay, Ms. Gonzalez, I think that's enough. And so, basically, a projector overlays topographical. That's the augmented reality bit. Things change immediately. And I don't get to do this in class, right? I don't get to pursue these 6-week projects with, multiple tools and all of this. But the foundation allows me to do that. And I don't touch a lot of kids, but I think I touch a couple kids really deeply. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So that's just a little taste, and honestly, I think one of the things that strikes me so much is how deeply the teachers in this district care about their students and really strive in and outside of the classroom to make sure that their kids are inspired, even if they're learning in a different way. So that's what makes it such a wonderful job that we have, to see the commitment that the teachers have. Thank you so much, teachers, for being who you are. And thanks again to the board and to Dr. Dignam for all the daily support you give us in our quest to help them help their students. We really appreciate it.
We now have our 3S presentation, which is the Deerfield High School and Highland Park High School World Languages presentation. Department chairs Elizabeth Robertson from Deerfield and Scott Russell, Highland Park High School, will facilitate the presentation. Thank you.
Good evening. So I'm Liz Robertson. Scott Russell. And I'm Scott Russell from Highland Park High School.
So as we begin the presentation, you will see in the first slide what it is that we have in place for students to be able to learn the world languages that we offer. Do you want to go like to the... Okay, thanks. So seemingly they seem like, okay, world language teachers, that's great. But in that group of individuals, you will see way more than just those students, teachers every day that are exposed to the languages that we offer, which are French, Spanish, Hebrew, and Chinese. Among those that you see before you, I took some notes because I asked them, tell me what you're most proud of that you would like everyone to know, and it's with pride that Scott and I come here and we express everything that you've given to us as a board through the years. And so even if it's just we're the face of that tonight, just know that these are the individuals that are bringing the instruction and the opportunities to our students. Among these teachers, you will see a marathon runner. You will see world travelers, obviously. You will see individuals that have been with the district up to 25 years. A couple have been here fewer than 5. You will see, for example, Curie Benito, who began the EL program just recently. You will see Joseph Bingle, who has been able to take our students in a reciprocal exchange through the years that Robin Wolf, who was here, along with Luann Erickson, established. This year, the students are coming here from France. You will see teachers that are involved in other things that are outside of our department. And that was very important. That was something that, as you know, world languages is an elective, but we're looking at a way in which individuals touch students that obviously we have within our program, but also that are part of the school community. With that said, we have teachers there that are part of the homeroom committee, that are part of PARC, a part of, for example, we just heard about Ryan Rakaitis and his ability to go to Washington, D.C. and represent world languages, but also he is the Teacher of the Year for the Illinois Council of Teachers for Foreign Language, which is quite an honor to have someone in our district represent, obviously, our district and our program, but also the importance of maintaining that open-mindedness of learning a different culture and how the language plays a part of that. You will also see, for example, Matt Wallace, who is an instructional technology coach, and so he obviously helps those throughout the building to bring technology to the classroom. So it's not just the idea of, in our little world, no pun intended, of using technology in world languages, but rather exchanging ideas and bringing ideas to our department that he sees perhaps even in science or any other math, any other discipline, and being able to have those exchanges. And that would have never happened without your support, so thank you for that. And so you see also, I have to go back to Ryan 1 second because he and Mercedes Cook have been able to present multiple times. Their sessions in language acquisition have been voted the best in Central States conferences repeatedly for the past 2-3 years. So they are also ambassadors to others outside of our community. And that's your well-rounded department. So thank you for bearing with me with all those examples, but I just wanted you to see that your commitment to staff development and to being able to have those opportunities brought to individuals, but that goes out, again, as ambassadors, is not overlooked. That's something that we definitely are very proud of, so thank you.
And I would echo Liz's thought that, you know, we are truly fortunate to have two of the most remarkable departments in the state of Illinois. When you look at the Highland Park department more specifically, we have teachers that were born in Mexico, born in Guatemala, Israel, France. We're truly a world department, world language department. We have staff members like Jose Acosta, who have presented also at Central States. We have Nairi Hagopian, who's teaching one of the few AP Spanish literature classes in the area. We have teachers like Debbie Lewicki, who's teaching a new senior class in Spanish called Seminar that mirrors the AP capstone class called Seminar. We have Maria Barbonente and Myra Fadul, who are brand new to our department. Myra coming to us from Loyola Academy. And then we have Amber Rizwan, who's one of the first teachers in the state of Illinois to be teaching a content area class, namely history that we'll talk about later, in Spanish as part of our dual language program. So we truly have a remarkable staff, and we're fortunate to be working with them.
So one of the things, again, through the support that we have gotten through the years, we've been able to maintain a 4-year program and above that 4-year mark. If we take a look at the offerings for freshmen, there's an array of choices that they can definitely commit to a 4-year program, and that, again, is due to your commitment to ensuring that they have the opportunity to be able to follow through with that course in a program. You will notice that we range from standard level classes to surveyed to honors and so forth. And again, looking at the Spanish, for example, which is the only course that offers a survey level, that's primarily due to the fact that we do see that interest at the Spanish level. Had we seen perhaps interest in Chinese or French and Hebrew, perhaps that's something we would come to you later on and see, is this something that we could support with numbers and so forth. But definitely they do see Spanish as a viable course for them to take throughout the 4 years that they're in high school. The other things that I'd like to point out is looking at, for example, Hebrew. We're looking at students that place as freshmen as high as 3rd year. Some of the students coming from Solomon Schechter. And so they're able to continue that course up to the 5th year level. We're looking at perhaps if students do land on that, looking forward to the option of a Hebrew 6 maybe, so that they could have a 4-year program and be able to continue with that. With that, I have to say Yafa Berman has been instrumental in growing this program. Sounds like a plug for her, but it truly has been an effort that she has made, and very committed to going out to the community and making sure that they're aware of the option that we have in the Hebrew program. And just last week, she and I actually went to Springfield to work on the Illinois licensure exam. Specifically, she worked on Hebrew. Can't say that I could do that, but I did work on the bias aspect of exams in various areas. So again, talk about an ambassador who's out there and put us on the map as people committed to keeping that Hebrew program and viable candidates in the future. So definitely something that I wanted to highlight, along with the Chinese program, which has maintained a very strong program, and we're seeing numbers that have allowed students for multiple years to continue on to those higher level courses. We'll later on talk about AP, but you'll notice that we don't offer Chinese AP, and that's because it's a very, very difficult exam. You would have to know thousands of characters to be able to, but I won't steal the thunder of the next slides when we talk about AP. But those are some of the highlights. Here we are. So looking at the 4-year enrollment, in terms of students enrolled in our program throughout our program, you will see that pretty much it has stayed steady again, Hebrew being one of those programs that we're very pleased to see the numbers and the commitment of the students with that. We can talk later on about Spanish. And I think that's probably French also, knowing that we offer it we have it in the sender schools, has helped us maintain that program as well. And so I guess, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, the language program at Highland Park looks slightly different because we do offer Italian as well. A school our size in this area to offer 5 languages is fairly unique, and to have 5 full languages is unique. A lot of times you might end up with an added program that is only part-time. Our Italian is not a full-time program at the moment, but we do have a new teacher who's in her 3rd year. And when we look at the Italian numbers in a moment, I can tell you that her numbers are lower classmen heavy, so that bodes well for the future. In these 4 languages, we offer regular programming as well as honors programming. beginning at level 2. And then, as you'll see, in Spanish, we offer survey as well as they do at Deerfield. We're very proud to have a full 4-year program for students that we can guarantee when they enter as a freshman. We know as parents in a community that when you choose to take Chinese as a freshman, we're making a commitment to that family that we're going to have 4 years for that child, because they're going to want to apply to colleges, and colleges are going to want to see those 4 years on their transcript. So going forward with the languages and the numbers on the next slide, you'll see that we're actually pretty stable, and I feel good about making that commitment to families, and I think we all should. Spanish gets its own slide because we kind of have 3 groups of students that we work with here. The first path that you see there is Spanish Language Arts. That's our course that is designed for students that are coming out of the dual language program in District 112. 112 dual language students are students that committed to taking Spanish, 90% of their coursework starting in kindergarten in Spanish, and continue all the way through the junior highs. And we'll talk about that a bit more later on. But it's for our dual language kids, it's for our native speaker, Spanish speakers, and also for our recently arrived students. If we get a student from Guatemala and they want to take Spanish and increase their literacy in Spanish, they go into that first column. The second column is what we know as the traditional, I started Spanish in 6th grade, and I'm in the honors track. And so they come in, take 2 honors, and then by their senior year, they have the option to either take language or literature. Language is recommended. And then the last column is that I began 6th grade Spanish, and I consider myself a regular track student, or a survey student for that matter, and you can come in at 1 or 2. And theoretically, if you wanted to take that challenge, you too could take an AP language class when you finished as a senior. Most of these kids end up in Spanish 4. So that's our language offering. Here are our 4-year enrollment numbers for all 5 of our languages at Highland Park. What we see here is some growth in Chinese, with 107 students there, which is a pretty solid 1.0 for this area. I hope it is. I don't want to speak too soon. We have a solid French program with 2 teachers, with some recent decline that we're working on and looking at with our teachers, how we might change that. We have our Hebrew program that stayed solid. We had a little blip last year that made us all nervous. We went out to the synagogues and strengthened our connections again with the community, and it's looking better again. Italian, as I said, looks like it's really stable, but I see growth there because the underclassmen are enrolling in those lower level classes. And Spanish is up, and that's due primarily to the fact that we've been more thoughtful about which classes we make available to EL students. Oftentimes our EL students follow a very strict schedule during the day and may only have 1 or 2 periods a day that they have some flexibility to take an elective. In the past, we didn't place a class for them in those periods, and we've changed that, and we've captured more kids. So that's been a real positive change.
So the slide, sorry.
Different heights.
Yeah, there were heels. Still didn't help me. All right, so as we look at the AP Spanish, that's for the language exam. We do not have interest in our building for the course, so all of these are based on the AP Spanish language exam. That exam changed not too long ago, and it went from traditional fill in the blanks, error recognition, really things that we don't emphasize right now, to a different type of format, and one in which is more realistic and authentic, and is based on ACTFL standards, which is the American Council of Teachers of Foreign Language. As a result, what we did not too long ago, about 4 years ago, we decided to, as a department, to look at how do we prepare all students. This shouldn't be just for AP students. This should be for all students. Well, we do that by looking at what is College Board value, what are they looking at, and how do we see that as a way in which to prepare all students? What are the themes that they're using? It's environmental, it's family, it's all these different themes and ways in which they're preparing them. For example, orally, in written form, and listening, all the 4 domains. And so we started to expose our students and choose our materials based on that, and exposing everyone regardless of whether you were in survey, standard, or honors. If you were going to say that you are a second-year student, regardless of language, this is what everyone was going to be exposed to. So the most common question that I get from incoming freshman parents is, what's the difference between honors and standard? Like, what will they have to do, more homework? And I spend all 8th grade parent night explaining that it's not about homework. Back in the day, when I was in school, it was about finish this packet, and if you could do that, you're an honor student. And now it's more of, how do we get you to use this language? Everybody needs, we're aiming for 100% in the target language, verbally and in written form, but how do we get you to use it to a degree that's deeper if you're able to expose them to different types of activities and so forth? So that's a primary difference. It's not that you're going to get more versus that's not equitable. We're not looking at that. We're looking at how do we want you to use it and express yourself and so forth. So as a result, you'll see that the numbers in terms of the AP exams, we noticed that there are no more 2s and 1s, and that we are above the national average, and that we're always striving, because you never arrive, so we're always striving to continue to do well. And more importantly, I'm always looking at 2 things as a chair. I'm looking at being able to see the teachers develop lessons and become a part of this process without being told top down, this is what needs to happen, but rather, how do you see this in your classroom and as a team member for that team that you are a part of? And also, how do we get more students involved? Does it really matter if we get 2s and 1s if we're looking at more students taking the exam? Of course not. It's just telling us, okay, how do we help that student achieve a level that helps them as we look at post-high school to see how do they get placed into or out of a program once they go into college or whatever other experience they want. The last thing that I was going to say regarding this, I'm a lecturer for Lake Forest College, and I teach a course right before student teachers go out in Spanish. To work towards that license. And one of the exams that you have to take is the OPI, which is the oral proficiency interview. And our students, and I'm kind of stealing the thunder with the next, but I'm excited to tell them this. One of the things that you need to do is take this interview as a potential candidate to move on to your student teaching. And our students, when they do the Seal of Biliteracy, which we'll talk about later, are surpassing that. And wait till you hear about Highland Park, that's even awesome, and how they rank with that. But I'm seeing candidates that when I start working with them, I need to go back because they haven't gotten that through their experience, and it's much harder at that point. But my point being that everything that you see there is the effort of many teachers through many years working to get the students to be able to use the language in a way that we know College Board and ACTFL and everyone else, it's grounded on that. It's not just a subjective, well, this is what we think you should be scoring. So that's pretty much that slide. Okay.
And I realize that I would be remiss not to point something else out on this slide about what that first column is. 3 years ago, we made the conscious choice to change how we place our dual language and native speaker students. We decided to start them in, because, and we'll talk about this later, because they were taking the APPLE exam, which is a nationally third-party normed exam. We were seeing their scores and seeing that they were projected to be scoring 3s and 4s as 8th graders. So we realized, well, we don't need to lock them into waiting till their junior year to take the AP exam. So now students are placed into SLA 2 honors as freshmen, into AP Spanish Language and Culture as sophomores. I should note that most high school districts are aiming to get their students to that exam by the end of their senior year. And our students are taking it at the end of their sophomore year, if they're in this path. And then as juniors, they're taking AP Lit, which most students never get a chance to take. And then we had to actually make up a new course, and I owe you some thanks for approving that course last year. As I said before, it was to be modeled after the AP exam and the AP capstone class. And so it's running this year, and it's for the first time. So thank you for that. Come on. Oh, do you want to talk about Chinese? I think yours are together.
All right, sorry. No, all right. So this is French, and the exams that they've taken so far. Again, please notice the national average versus the Deerfield average. And that's the effort of many people, obviously, that have prepared our students for that exam. So, the next one, the Chinese. Okay, so the Chinese, I said before, oh, we don't offer a Chinese class because an AP, because it's very difficult to prepare students. These are actually students that are within, they may or may not be taking Chinese with us, but they are interested in taking the exam, so they're native speakers. I do have to point out that Athena Sawyer does sit with them and helps them through that preparation of what does it look like, what is this exam going to test, and so forth. But please know that those are not students that are enrolled in our program, because there's no way that we could prepare them in the amount of time that we have.
So here are our AP results for 4 years for Spanish language and culture. I think it's most notable that right now our pass rate is almost 100%, and I can tell you that our one student that got a 2 last year got a 2 because one of the sections of the test was in English, and she was an EL student. She misinterpreted the directions and ran out of time. We're going to give her another test this year as a result. But we're real proud of that pass rate, but it does make us ask ourselves, are we actually opening this opportunity to enough students? I mean, that is a really high pass rate. Shouldn't there be other kids out there taking a shot at this test? And I think that's something that we would move forward toward in the future. You can see the national average here for Highland Park versus the national average. That is an extremely significant difference. A 4.45 on a 5 scale versus a 3.64 national average is unbelievable. And it obviously reflects the work of the dual language program where kids begin at kindergarten. It reflects the native speaker population, but then of course it also reflects the instruction of our teachers. We have fantastic teachers in that department. Also you'll note, and I'll talk about this in another slide, that we've gone from 63 to 109, and yeah, let me move on to the next one, in a minute. We've also begun giving the Spanish literature AP exam. We're in the second year, or now the third year of offering this exam. It's gone from 1 student in 2013 who took it on their own to 43 students with a 96% pass rate, a 3.65 average versus 304. That's fantastic. That average, this is a class they take after the language class, and that average is lower than the language class, but the reason why is because a lot of the kids that are in those classes, when they're sophomores or juniors, when they take the language test, it's a test purely on language, and a lot of them have language already. When they go to this literature class, it's a test on literature. And for some of these students, it's the first time they've studied literature in any language at this depth. And it's a new skill, and it's a challenging skill, and so scores go down a little bit, but that is still awesome right there. I think the biggest shift is probably this slide for me. So if we go back to 2011, we're going to see that we gave 45 Spanish language and cultural exams at Highland Park. We gave no lit scores there on the right side, so obviously we have no average. We go from 45 exams to 47 exams to 65, and then we start to change the way we enroll kids. We go to 78 students, and then the big hit happens for when we enroll kids. And we have a 1-year bubble because we have 2 overlapping years in how the kids were enrolled. It went up to 109, and then back to an 86 that I think is more realistic. In the meantime, we started on the right-hand side offering the AP Lit exam. And what's remarkable when you look at this overall, you have to consider that we expanded from 45 students to 129 students. Achievement on the test remained roughly the same. The pool of students diversifies, and the courses offered diversifies. It's been an exciting process. These are our French exam, AP exam scores. Again, a fantastic pass rate of 88%. It's in the ballpark with the national average. And I would say that this kind of achievement on an AP exam is more commensurate with a school that starts kids in 6th grade, and that's the population they have. Our French teachers are doing a great job with those students, for sure. Other exams that have been taken by Highland Park and Deerfield students, that's why it's purple slide. DHS gave a Japanese 4 years ago. We gave a Japanese last year, German, they're random. You'll notice that these scores are typically very high, 5s. The reason why is because they're typically native speakers. They're kids taking a language test that we don't teach, but it's their language. So, you want to keep going? Okay. The question was, what other similar courses are offered in other districts? We have districts in the area that do offer languages like German, Japanese, Latin, sign language. It's not frequent. And we already offer 5 and 4 languages. That's quite a bit. So I talked a little bit about dual language in 112 and what that looks like. Excuse me, I'm going to stand up. Okay. I talked about dual language in 112. The question is, they're in their 20th year, so they're considered a mature program for an elementary district. About 7, 8, I don't know how many years ago, Dr. Klennis, years ago, we started getting students in significant enough numbers that we started to think, wow, we need to address this.
Yeah, it's probably 7 years ago.
Yeah, and we were noticing, at one time it was maybe 30 kids a year that were coming in, and then it grew to more like 80 kids, and we're looking at a future where it's going to be even more kids. So noticing that, we decided, well, we have to make programmatic changes to address their needs. Because I've been in that incoming parent of kindergarten meeting and stood there and said, we will offer 12 years of programming for your children. But the reality is, go back 3 years ago, we didn't. So here's how far we are right now. We already talked about the Spanish language offerings on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, starting this year, we offered Patterns of World History, our history class for freshmen in Spanish, PE. Next year, we'll have PE and traffic safety as well. And then we have plans for the future that include other curricular areas that might possibly be things like U.S. history, art, culinary arts, science, biology. Which ones am I forgetting here? Geometry, potentially. International business and computing. These are all areas where we do have staff who are interested and they're interested in teaching those kind of courses. So that's where we're looking toward the future. And then we're hoping we're going to come to you at some point here and talk about a dual language seal that would be specific to our districts. Because currently when a student graduates as a dual language student in our district, we pat them on the head and we say, thank you, and we send them out the door. We believe that they deserve some recognition that they have made this commitment and have experienced significant coursework in content areas in Spanish that sets them apart from other students in our country. So we're working on standards for what that will look like. We hope to have something to bring to you this year, but we're working on it. Yes, Doctor.
Do you know of any other high school that's doing this, Scott?
You know what, Dr. Klennis, I'm glad you asked that question. I could comfortably say in the Midwest there's one other high school that's working on a dual language program, and across the country, no, it's exceedingly rare, to the point that when we go to conferences now, Dr. Klennis was out at La Cosecha this past fall, some of the preeminent figures in the EL community nationwide are approaching our school and saying, we need you to write a chapter for us in our next book. So, people like Thomas and Collier and Freeman are sending us emails and asking us and our teachers, what are you doing with your kids and how are you putting that programming in place? And I have to say, to be part of that process has been truly remarkable. And there are people in this building that believe deeply in it. And I'll show you in a minute what our local data looks like for that. Did I answer your question? Okay. There was a question too, do we have any data on students other than AP exams? In Highland Park, we do. 3 years ago, I piloted the APPLE exam, which is ACTFL, the American Council on Teaching of Foreign Languages, measure of proficiency in a second language. I piloted it with District 112, with dual language kids and with select French kids, just to see what it would yield. Would it tell us anything that would be helpful? And it did. We now use this measure of proficiency for placement of freshman students in Spanish and French classrooms. And part of one of our most remarkable finding is how effective dual language is in Spanish proficiency development. So what we see here is this is the proficiency scale going from novice up to advanced. The A and I-5 are roughly equivalent to, say, a 3 or a 4 on the AP exam. That's as incoming freshmen. That's unbelievable. And if you look at the difference in their achievement in Spanish at the 8th grade level, I5 versus N4, they're almost outperforming their peers by double in a second language. It's truly remarkable. And that's what drove our decision to place our kids differently as freshmen that I talked about earlier. It wasn't just like, I feel that they're ready. No, they're ready. The data's there. We now use this for replacement, like I said, and it's nice because it gives us hard numbers to back up the placement recommendations that teachers make in 112. All right, so this is the local data. I believe that most of you saw a report on dual language several years ago that saw the dual kids outperform their classmates. Well, this is now data that comes out of Highland Park High School instead of the national data. What we have here is the first red bar on the left is ACT composite scores of self-identified English speakers. Up there it says white. And then the second blue bar is ACT composite score of dual language English speakers as well. So this is kids that say they speak English at home and their composite ACT scores. That doesn't look like a significant difference perhaps, but in fact that is. And then perhaps less intuitively, the third and fourth bar, that is math. So they're outperforming their peers in math. And then the fifth and sixth bars, that's English reading. So I don't think everybody jumps to the conclusion all the time that learning a second language is going to improve my reading in English, but the national data says it does, and our local data says it does, and that's awesome. And imagine this. This is the change in proficiency that we have, or achievement that we have, without us putting thoughtful programming in place for our kids yet. Imagine where we'll go when we have that programming there in the future. This is the same graph, but for kids that are home language self-identified as Spanish. So again, first bar composite, second bar composite DL, the second bar composite non-DL. The difference is even more drastic. Then you have math, and then you have reading again. The other thing that this has yielded for us locally is this. If we look at the graph on the far left that says average on the bottom, the first blue bar is home language English composite dual language. The red bar, home language English non-dual language. Then the green bar, home language Spanish dual language. And then the last bar, the purple, is home language Spanish non-dual language. So what this shows us is that although dual language is having impact on both populations or all populations of students, because we know from national data that students of lowest socioeconomic background, black, white, special ed, they all benefit, and we see that here, but it does still reveal an achievement gap that we have to continue working on.
Okay, so the seal of biliteracy is something that the state of Illinois, it's rather new, has begun to offer to students who have been studying a world language and can also prove that they are literate in English, so thus the biliteracy. On the right-hand side, it speaks to how does a student prove that they are literate in English. So those are the options that are available. That APPLE acronym, it actually is an exam that's offered through ACTFL. Again, I may sound like a broken record, but that's, just as a reminder, that's what we're using to calibrate and align our curriculum based on those standards that ACTFL has set out. So our students are not seeing, if they choose to go for this seal or commendation, they're not seeing that rubric for the first time when they go to test. They're not seeing that method of testing for the first time when they're trying for these. They're seeing it consistently from day one, whether they're in Spanish 1 or 2 or wherever they land and they choose to pursue. So it's available to all students. So once they're able to demonstrate that they have gotten that level of English literacy, we then ask them to look at the left-hand side and which one of those measurements do you want to apply to demonstrate in various languages, not just the ones that we offer in our academic classes, to be able to test for. We so far have been able to test in those languages that students have asked for, either an APPLE or STAMP. There is a cost to it because, again, that's something that they would like to see on their transcript. It also appears on their diploma as a seal. If they have reached that level, there's the seal, and again, the commendation. And they are based on the ranking that they have attained, which Scott just demonstrated in that color range that goes up to advanced and I-5 and so forth. Yes, that's the one. Again, let me go back 1 second. This is based on OPI, which goes to that oral proficiency interviewing, this is what student teachers are taking. And if they don't pass this to the degree that they need to, which almost always is either I-5 in every 4 of those domains, and listening and speaking and so forth, or advanced, they cannot go on to be in the classroom. And our students who choose to take that exam to be able to prove their literacy are ranking at that point. I know one of the questions that frequently comes up is, well, when do students tend to take this? Well, the state of Illinois tells us that they can go for the biliteracy seal or commendation when they're juniors or seniors, and those results are good for 2 years. So a student can actually come back retrospectively and ask for that while they're still a freshman or a sophomore in college. So just recently, Scott and I were able to put that up there because we will be offering that exam in the coming weeks. And we put a little inclusion on there that if you recently graduated, please come back and you can go ahead and seek that, because if you are going to school, in Illinois State School, you can receive, Governor Rauner just stated, that you can receive credit, college course credit for that placement. So as you can see, even though this is the second year that we've offered this, and we, again, going back to how do we measure with area schools, not every area school is offering this to their students. We were one of the first ones because we wanted to give this opportunity to all students. You'll see that those are the amount of commendations and seals that we have been able to issue out to students because they have earned it. Typically, we're seeing students in 4th year at Deerfield take it. Although we do have seniors that are interested once they're in AP, but if they want that on their transcript for that November date, they tend to want to take it during their 4th year class. So as we move forward, it's not always just about academics. It's about how do students enjoy and become a part of the culture and the food and all that goes along with that. And we have graciously been able to offer these honor societies in both buildings. And it really is a way in which the community comes to the building, whether it's something that we offer as, and that might be the next slide, but that we offer as a culture day. We do that quite frequently with Chinese and Hebrew, or whether it's an honor society evening, which the building is buzzing when all of those are going on at the same time, and I'm trying to go to all of them to see how the kids have prepared for that and been able to not only show that they have earned that, that honor, but also see how they have been able to apply, whether it's a video that they've created or a cooking lesson or a poetry recital or whatever it may be.
I'm back. So as we alluded to before, one of the continuing efforts that we have underway is to ensure that we have as strong enrollment as we possibly can in all of our languages. We want to support our staff that way. We want to support our students that way. As I said before, when a student enters as a freshman, we're tacitly making a commitment to have programming for them through their senior year. And so that's something that we continue to work on. We articulate with our center districts 101, 112. We make sure that we have a presence at 8th grade nights. Our Hebrew teachers go to the synagogues. Our French teachers at Highland Park go over to the junior high right next door for the French market day, French cafe day. That's really cool. They have a cafe. It's next week, I believe. But our teachers are continually working to try and maintain and strong enrollment in all of their curricular areas. I think that third bullet point is one that we both feel very strongly about, and what we mean by maintaining opportunities for all students is that regardless of ability level, maintaining, because we tend to talk a lot about our honors track and our AP scores, but that's not to say we don't care as much or even more about our regular track of kids, and that we have quality programming in place for them. So for example, at Highland Park, and you have a Spanish 5? Yeah, and at Deerfield, we make sure that a student coming in at a Spanish 2 regular level still has a course to go to when they're senior in a Spanish 5 that's non-AP. And then we want to make sure that we're encouraging our kids that maybe get to a Spanish 4 or a French 4 honors their senior year. We want to make sure that we let them know that they have access to take AP tests too. There's no exclusion of students who aren't in the course to the test. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah, yeah.
So one of the things that I want to make sure that we pointed out is the diagonal movement that occurs within our program. If we have students, for example, Spanish 5 was a perfect example, where if they want to continue with fourth year survey, once they complete that and they want to go on to a fifth year has been designed for now. It's the pilot year that we're looking at a STEAM-based curriculum. So students, regardless of whether they're coming, like I teach fourth year honors, some students don't want to go on to AP their senior year, so they're taking this fifth year. And it's a collection of students who are just interested in using the target language in a real world setting. So Mercedes Cook has done an awesome job this year at, putting together a curriculum that allows students to, she's interfacing with arts, and people within the building. I'm like, you have experts here, just go to them and see. She's brought in business people. The owner of the Cherry Pit came in and spoke to them in the target language about that whole process of setting up a business and how do you do that. And the questions, I witnessed it because I wanted to see how's that going to work. And it was awesome to see them use that terminology and be able to have that kind of discussion with someone who was a native Spanish speaker and in the community, not someone who's out in some area that they're not familiar with, but someone that they see all the time when they go in there. So that's an opportunity where we have seen an option for students that wanted to continue, and it doesn't have to have that label of being a certain level of a class. It's an opportunity for them as fifth year students, and it looks great on their transcripts. And recently I've been working with students who wanted to do an independent study on blogging. And so they're creating their blogs and they're creating everything in Spanish. And the topics are such that I'm using it in my fourth year honors class to have kids do AP type of activities with it, like exam items and so forth, and also to prepare for the Apple if they choose to do that. So we'll see students, it's hard to get a measure as to how many students continue, X amount of years with the language and so forth, because we're seeing if you're ready to do it now and you're not going to be able to go senior year into your fifth year, let's capture what you've done so far, not only with us, but also in the Sunder School, whether it's the Apple exam or you want to take the AP exam now and you're in fourth year regular or fourth year honors, go for it, do it, And so we work with the AP teachers to make sure that they're available and have that articulation with students so that they know what that exam is like. But why not give them that opportunity? So, sorry.
We have staff members in our departments involved in various presentation modes. As we talked about, we have teachers who are presenting at ICFL, Illinois Council on Teacher Foreign Language, ACTFL, Central States Conferences, the I-Center, District Institute Days. We have teachers engaged in professional development of all kinds, Newberry Institutes, AP conferences, members of all the language associations. We also brought in, for the dual language kind of ideal and the promotion of a dual language building as a whole, we brought in Cheryl Urow, who's a nationally recognized expert in teaching for biliteracy and dual language. She also happens to be a member of our community, but she came in and did a 2-day workshop, and you might think it would be a workshop just for world language teachers. It wasn't. We had something on the order of 50 teachers representing all departments and some from both schools as well, all engaged in looking at what does literacy look like for all kids, even if they're a monolingual student. What does literacy look like? How will that improve their learning in all areas? And that was real exciting for sure. So thank you for supporting that as well. Yeah, we use technology in both of our departments, of course. I think the biggest change for our teachers has been the ability to have their hands on realia at the click of a mouse. So, back in the day, if you were taking German, your German teacher had to go fly to Germany, bring back a newspaper, and put it in your hands. Now they can click on any site on the internet, they can see video, they can have audio, they can have first-person resources that are contemporary, and that's been a huge change for us. And that's due to the one-to-one initiative that we have going right now, so thank you for that, too. Did you have anything more? Oh, yeah.
So Ryan Rakaitis has been able to bring in Skyping, and here they are at like 9 in the morning talking to somebody who's in Spain, and it's like, that's insane that, they're producing the questions, he stands back and allows them to see this individual, and if they don't understand, they gotta work it out, like how do you communicate in a way. I wanted to take this opportunity also to just say, because Ryan was also able to take his classes to visit Little Brothers, Friends of the Elderly in Chicago, and through that, he was able to do what he describes as an intergenerational exchange in which they worked on Veterans Day service projects and discussed a Spanish language movie that they watched together. So when you do have the opportunity to come out and have those type of field trips, which thank you for supporting that. It's, that one-on-one, real-life type of exchange. But when you don't and you have the opportunity to go through this type of means, that's doable because that technology now exists in the classroom. And being able to do what used to be, a traditional, we have to go to a certain part of the building to have done, it's now just take out your Chromebooks and let's, get that. So the accessibility makes that whole worldwide experience just come, in a minute. You can just have it all happen, so.
Thank you.
School board members, anyone questions? I'm sorry, any school board member questions? Debbie?
I have one. One of the things that I experienced as a parent, having had 2 students that took French, was it was a frustration on the part of the world language French teachers as far as the AP exam, and that it seemed to be, and they were hoping for a change, that it would be more of an assessment of what your high schools are able to get to and teach. And I noticed the numbers the averages are lower than some of the other languages, and I understand some of that has to do with the amount of students that take it as well, but there is still I don't know if it's a disconnect with the French AP exam and what we're able to, is that still in existence? I know Barb Harvey years ago had said that they were, a group of teachers were working on trying to have that be more reflective of what high school students are learning in their language studies.
I would say, and I've seen the numbers, the French exam specifically does have a slightly lower national average than the other language exams. So the test has changed, though, recently. How long ago was your student in class?
The youngest one is now 28.
Okay, yeah, so that was...
I just wondered, because the numbers don't look any different.
Yeah.
Than they did back then, and I was just wondering if it's still out of alignment with what high school French teachers, what the curriculum is. Not just, Highland Park and Deerfield, but I mean, even the national average is lower than some of the other languages, and I was wondering if that was the disconnect in the test itself.
It's slightly lower now, but it's much more in line with the other language exams today. And then 3-4 years ago, they overhauled all language exams to be more a measure of proficiency instead of accuracy.
Got it. Thank you.
So it would be a very different experience now.
They're long. I mean, they're fluent. Both of them are fluent.
That's
However,
awesome.
I was just wondering, because the numbers were so different.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Elena?
Okay. Yes, I was wondering what percentage of students take 4 years, 3 years, 2 years of a language, because we're seeing from colleges that maybe that 4 years of foreign language is getting a little squishy at this point. So can you speak to that?
What do you mean by squishy?
As in less. It's it's an educator term.
Yeah. Highly technical.
It's becoming less stringent.
So it's kind of difficult to determine how long they stay with the program because we would have to track, which might be something we want to do, that same individual through their profile, like how long did you take it? Obviously, looking at our numbers, one may see that, ooh, in Spanish, like for example, at Deerfield, it's kind of leveling off, you know, it's not as high. We do see attrition by the time they get to that senior year, and they're looking, we only have 2 sections of Spanish 5, for example, and 2 sections of AP, and that's typically where we see our seniors. So now we're looking at 4 sections. But is that a bad thing? I think that's indicative of options that we're also giving our students, where if they know that they can take a different elective, let's say that senior year, or they want to they can't because it's a singleton and the scheduling doesn't allow for them to take that specific class that they want to take in Spanish, let's say, then let's capture what they've learned. So we've kind of gone with, we're going to work with you, and we want you to get what you can for the efforts that you've put into this. So of course we'd like for them to stay with the language, but we're also cognizant of the fact that it's like, you know what, you've been taking this since you were in the center schools. We try to tell them stay with the 4 actual years because it will help them. Obviously when they get to college they can place out. So many of them, and this is anecdotal, but I do hear, I only needed 3 more classes and I got a minor, you know, and it's like, wow, you see like that's, the most heartbreaking thing is seeing when they take 2 years, because the fallacy of, oh, I only need 2 years to get in. And it's like, okay, so these poor kids that come in with their drop or whatever it is, I'm like a grandmother. I make them sit down. It's like, let me talk to you about this. Like, think really clearly about this decision because, you know, it's an investment. And I don't want you to have any remorse later on that no one told me and nobody, and I know that the counselors are working and telling them, but they only see what they see today and they don't realize the long term. So if I can't convince them to take another year, it's like, then please take one of these exams. Try to capture what you've learned and put that on there because the program you have endured in their mind, because they feel it as an endurance, is something that has let you reach a certain level that most schools don't even attain. So.
And could I also get a little input on the difference in the curriculum between a survey class and a regular class?
Sure. So a standard class tends to be between that and a survey. Remember, everyone, whether it's survey, standard, or honors, is exposed to the same material. Where you might see the application at, for example, a survey class be more, those tend to be smaller classes, be more one-on-one with the teacher, for example, or in smaller groups. Once you get to standard, the classes are a little bit bigger, and what you're seeing is more like a learning community, perhaps, that's working on a specific topic or something where they're trying to achieve something that requires a little bit more in depth of the language and trying to like maybe connect they all use their Chromebook, they all use the same thing. It's the degree to which the breadth to which they're being asked. Maybe they'll do, for example, in honors, it'll be a little bit more sophisticated, same topic, same vocabulary, but now you're doing a fishbowl because they can technically see, okay, we're going to observe this, then ask questions based on what we saw and give feedback and so forth. So it tends to be a little bit more in depth than you would, but they're exposed to, that was something that as the chair of the department, I was seeing immediately when I arrived that it was like, well, we don't have a book for this, and we don't have, and the kids were telling me, in the time that I've been there, I have taught 4 different preps, and one of them was 4th year survey, and the kids are like, we don't use the book. We don't, and I'm like, really? I'm like, okay, well, here we go. And they were learning the past subjunctive with the conditional, and they didn't even know that they were doing that. And we were going to the Botanic Gardens, and I'm like, go interview someone, go talk to them, make a public, service announcement, do something here, and the language that they were using, and they realized that it didn't matter, whether they had a book, which they did, or not. So it wasn't as intimidating. So I don't know if there's anything more.
Thank you.
Stacy?
So first of all, thank you so much. Very informative, great presentation. And I did want to comment that really impressed at both high schools that your AP scores for the students that take them, but that you both mentioned that not everybody needs to get a 3, 4, and 5, and recognizing that having more inclusion, even if they might have a lower score if they took the AP, is a worthwhile endeavor. And I personally appreciate that. So thank you. My one question, given the different languages we offer and the number of students enrolled in them, is what is happening at the sender schools? Because I don't know anymore, and has that changed? So 109, 106, 112, I don't know what they offer anymore. I know there was a question about French at one point, and if that's leading into one of our.
Yeah. They're still offering French. That's something that this year we've been maintaining articulation and bringing in the teachers and having them see how we have shifted through the years in terms of how we expose students to the language and how we expect their production to go, so that they can. They've been very open to, especially in Spanish, well, obviously in French as well, to how to make that more of a seamless transition, because the kids are always petrified. That's like always in the target language, like what are we doing? And now we don't see that as often. But, you know, I think it sways. I think it comes in waves. It's the reassurance that we do offer French. We want to continue with the program. You know, Joseph Bingle is a new teacher, and he's so committed to making it work. And great loss with Robin retiring, but I think she was able to mentor him to the point where, you know, he sees how to have that program succeed once the kids do make that decision. But we still have students interested in pursuing the French, at least at the second level. So.
Yeah, in 112, I haven't heard any discussion of stopping French.
So it's, again, French and Spanish are the
It is
two,
French
and then
and
obviously.
Well, in Hebrew, there's some.
Right, from the different
Yeah.
schools. Thank you.
Julie?
I'd also like to thank you very much for a very informative discussion. It was very helpful to see all the charts laid out and the progressions and the number counts. I've learned a lot, so thank you. I want to ask a question that's on something not on, actually in your presentation. So as a board, we have to approve international trips. And a lot of times the international trips that come to us are from teachers in your departments who are teaching these languages and look at those trips as an opportunity to immerse their students in the culture and bring them to these countries. I've never asked anybody about our philosophy on these trips, so since you're here, I'll ask you guys. Is there a department philosophy? Do we try to encourage teachers to organize these trips every few years, or is it more purely up to a teacher and whether they're interested?
Okay. So I always believe that grassroots is better. If we have students coming to us, the likelihood of something taking off is probably better. When there is a teacher that has some kind of interest in pursuing something like this, absolutely, it's like, okay, go see. What I don't want to ever put out there as a chair is that we're peddling something. That's like, go out there and get kids, make sure that we have enough kids, because that's a cost and expense to a family that, although we can offset that with different ways of fundraising and so forth, I feel that bringing the classroom to them and offering that kind of experience is equitable. It's never the same, obviously, as traveling somewhere, but definitely, at least at Deerfield, if we had teachers that were seeing, you know, my students are asking, why don't we pursue this? And absolutely, I know that, for example, in Hebrew, I know that the students are very interested in going to Israel, and I think that that's something, I'm partial to lesser enrolled class or courses, just because I feel that they need that exposure and they need that support, and they need to know that although you're small, you're mighty, and we will definitely support you in any way that we can. And I know that's something that Yafa Berman has been trying to work, you know, with the Eye Center especially, to see, you know, how do we get that going and how do we bring that exposure. And so definitely my only bias in this is that I never want a student to feel that they're being pursued, or that if it comes from them, I think that that has more validity to it, and obviously we would support whatever program that there would be that kind of interest, but I don't know if you have that experience.
I mean, I've had some experience with travel. I organized an exchange with the town outside of Paris for 10 years, and it was a regular trip, so it was every single year, and I saw the impact that that can have on students and their motivation and commitment. But again, like Liz said, that came from me. That's something I wanted to do, and that you do have to have staff that's interested in doing something like that and sees the value. It's definitely encouraged, but I don't think, well, you do it for French. There's a regular program in place for France, but we at Highland Park don't have anything regularized right now.
Thank you.
Michelle?
I didn't have any questions, but I thought it was a great presentation, and to see what's being offered and how the students are benefiting. It was great to see, so thank you.
Thank you. I did have a question too, and you mentioned support. And so we've seen how there's like an Israel Day, or there's a cultural day, or there's a trip or something. But as far as our tech, a lot of times the departments have used handouts or something. Is there anything through the one-to-one initiative or any types of resources across languages that you found in the form of either ebooks or support materials that you're using these days?
That we're using to what end?
As your main materials for teaching?
Well,
Or support, excuse me, support material.
for our French, Spanish, Italian programs, at least at Highland Park, and I believe at Deerfield as well. We're using ebooks. At Highland Park, they are using physical textbooks as a support to kids that don't find the ebook accessible for whatever reason. But there is definitely a transition to using more online resources. As I said before, not just restricted to the textbook, but to other authentic materials that are so readily available nowadays. And definitely that spreads across all languages.
Great.
So it has, Scott is spot on. And also we're seeing in the way that we assess learning, in that, for example, we have gone from, okay, write about, here's a prompt. I mean, we do that too, but here's a prompt and so forth, to develop an app. Here's a situation, develop an app that allows you to get that situation taken care of or to make it better or whatever it may be. And so there are different ways in which now we're incorporating technology, again, with the one-on-one that allows students to look at that as a resource. And just recently we're doing this thing in fourth year honors where it's about selfies. And we combined looking at selfies with Frida Kahlo and an autorretrato that she had, which is a self-portrait. And so mixing that together where it's like, here's a poem written by someone different, and here's a picture of this artist, and what does this mean to, okay, now, what does this mean in current day with a selfie? And create your own poem that goes with your selfie and tell us not just what we're seeing, but what's beyond that, because that's what was present in the Frida Kahlo. And that would not have been possible without going to a lab or doing something like that, when you could just say, okay, take out your Chromebook and look at what this portrait that she did on herself, what it really represented. And so it was like, wow, so from that regard too, it is with the ebooks and so forth, but also the way in which we assess, where are they with all of this? So, in the target language, no less, so.
Thank you so very much, truly.
Thank you.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the revised minutes for February 13th, 2017, the special board meeting, February 13th, 2017, closed session, February 13th, 2017, finance committee meeting, February 13th, 2017, regular board meeting, and February 13th, 2017, second closed session. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Nope. Is that a second too?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. We have no discussion items tonight. We are moving directly to action items, and our first action item is District 113 Calendar Committee recommendation. Excuse me just one moment, please. District 113 Calendar Committee began meeting in the spring of 2016. Over the past several months, the committee reviewed calendars from area schools, conducted 3 surveys with parents, students, and staff, and examined a significant amount of feedback. As the calendar committee conducted its work, the data analysis and stakeholder feedback led to the creation of an unbalanced semester calendar. This calendar starts on August 20th, preserving the traditional school start time. Final exams are placed before winter vacation, addressing the strong desire from students and parents to make a winter vacation a true academic break for students. The school year concludes during the first week in June at its traditional time. The calendar committee believes this calendar reflects the values and needs that emerge from the feedback gathered, and that it can be successfully implemented during the 2018-19 school year. The recommended motion is the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education authorize administration to create a new school calendar for the 2018-19 school year based on the District 113 Calendar Committee recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. We are open for discussion, even though this is an action item. Julie, would you like to start?
I have a couple questions.
Excuse me for a moment. I would like to say that if it's possible, we should probably take our questions and refer them to Dr. Colentus as that chair of the committee. And then there are others here who can support that, Dr. Dignam or Ms. Anderson. Is that all right?
Okay, sure. So, two questions. First one is about school chest. So maybe this goes to Kathy. Sorry. Have you given any thought to how you might modify, if this gets approved, how you might modify school chest to be sensitive to the fact that it is so important to the school, and we want to make sure that we figure out where its home would be in the event of a calendar change?
Sure. So I actually brought this to my student advisory board today after school and brought up the exact thing. Ironically, I was able to have some of the students who are very active in school chest that were there to lend their voice, which was really important, I think. And some students indicated possibly November, January, or March. The concern was for some of the students to be able to do it before winter break, because I know that one of the reasons that they liked it in December was because of it's around kind of holiday season, and people are kind of in a giving mood, and so they thought November was a great way to kind of put it together with Thanksgiving and giving thanks during the month of November. Otherwise, January and March seem to be options in their minds as well. January a little bit more so than March because it was before Highland Park and they were worried about losing money. But they also like the opportunity for even March because it's a little bit nicer outside. I think that they're kind of stuck in this nice weather we're having right now, but March can be nice. And they thought that some of the events that they typically held would be nice in the springish weather as well. So the students had different ideas about how it could be incorporated, but November seemed to be one of the most widely approved of months because it was closer to what they had been doing previously with December. So that would be something that we would have to bring to the students. I know that they're already talking about it with the current committee that has been doing school chest. So it's not something that they haven't been considering.
Okay. Good. Thank you. And then,
Just,
yeah.
I also have a superintendent-student board, and it's a cabinet that is composed of Highland Park and Deerfield students. And 2 weeks ago, we met, and this is a topic that came up, and I had echoed the same sentiment that it looked like would be something around November, that they would support that and could. And my question was, well, would you be able to work towards that over the next year and a half to plan? And they said yes. I also checked in with Brian Verisario to learn if, although he doesn't run that program, in his role and capacity as the activities director, if he would help support that in either chair or look at ways for guiding students with that. And he said yes as well. Ironically, he also said that November would be the best month.
And then my second question, maybe this is back to Tom, sorry. I understand there was some rumor out there perhaps that as the committee did its work that there was some predetermined outcome that you might have felt pressured to get to, and I just want to get confirmation publicly as to whether you believe there was any pressure on the group to come up with any outcome.
Well, I do not believe that to be the case. There were members of the committee who wanted finals before break, members of the committee who did not want finals before break, members of the committee who wanted late starts in the summer, members of the committee who wanted starts earlier in the summer. So we had a very diverse group. There was never any directive given to me to land in a certain spot and direct the committee to land in a spot. The committee did its best to let the data guide our work, and that's the calendar that was ultimately created is one that was, there are members of the committee who like that calendar and members of the committee who don't like that calendar, but they all agreed that the data was leading us to creating that calendar as representative of the community feedback.
That's helpful, thank you.
Michelle, did you have a question?
Yeah, so on the third survey that went to teachers only, do you happen to know the percentage of teachers that responded to that third survey?
I don't have the percentage. I think the number was 215, but I can double check that for us. It's in the data that we reported. I would have to run that as a percentage though.
Okay, and then also in the third survey, you offered the 2 calendar options. I'm just wondering why you didn't include the traditional calendar in that final survey.
The reason for that was that after the second survey, the committee saw that it was clear that students, parents, and staff had selected calendar 3, the unbalanced calendar, as the most popular calendar. And so what we were doing at that point was we wanted to fine-tune with staff what an unbalanced semester calendar would be. So providing staff, basically the committee had a subgroup that's met and said, we have option 1 for unbalanced, and then we have option 2, which would be a balanced semester, but it would have this 9 days after winter break that would be first semester. It was sort of outside the box thinking that we wanted to see if staff would want to pursue that or if that was something that they didn't want us to pursue. And the feedback that we got from that third survey came back very strong that it was that 9-day kind of after winter break was not something that was popular with the majority of the staff who completed the survey at that time.
Stacy.
Some of the concerns we've heard from some of the community or staff was kind of twofold. One, the primary driver in moving finals would be to alleviate stress in students. And so do we have indications that by doing this it would actually do this? And 2, given that that is a primary driver, we also have an assessment committee that's going on kind of parallel pathing, but this is coming up before we decide if there should be any other changes to finals. So why aren't we recommending waiting until we have assessment data, and will making this change affect the outcome of that committee? You may not know the answer to all those.
Well, yeah, I'll speak to the first part, and then we can try to answer the second one as well. So for the first part, I think that what the data showed us was that it was very clear that what students and parents specifically wanted was no stress over winter break. So they were, when I read through the data and looked at it, there was very strong consensus on the first survey from parents and students and staff that finals before winter break would benefit students by reducing student stress over winter break. So it wouldn't take away the stress of finals, but it would take away the stress of having to study and do homework over winter break. And anecdotally, the principals that I talked to, that Kathy talked to in the CSL, have reported that that is being reported as the case, that the month November to December is a hectic month and there's a lot going on, but that overwhelmingly students and parents are reporting to them that they love having nothing to do over winter break, a true winter break. We also did some assessments of some college counselors this past week since the last board meeting, who also reported that there is, in December, it becomes a busy month with a lot going on, but that again, kids are reporting being very happy to be done at winter break and not have anything to worry about until they come back to start a new semester. So that, we believe, was the intent and why most students and most parents wanted finals before winter break. It's why a lot of staff, I believe, also put it there. And again, anecdotally from the districts who have made this change, they're reporting that students and parents are very happy with that. do you want to address?
So in regards to the assessment committee, the work that we've been doing with the assessment committee has been shared with the calendar committee as we've kind of gone through everything with the assessment committee. In large part, the assessment committee has been a group to kind of process about specific things with final exams, homework, grading, to kind of assess different perspectives, different stakeholder views. So in regards to where students are feeling, they do feel stressed about final exams. Interestingly enough, I had brought it up to students in the student advisory board today in regards to how final exams, what the effects would be if final exams was even eliminated. They actually said it would be more stressful, which was really very shocking to me. But they said that finals week can actually be relaxing because you're not at school all day, and they would be afraid that if finals was just a normal week of school, that they'd have more work than usual, and that finals week can sometimes be a stress relief just to get it done and be done with the semester. So interesting feedback from the student advisory group, just in that respect as well, because I think that was a very, that was a question that I know that had come up in the previous board meeting as well, about just changing the structure of finals. And certainly that could be a topic for whether it was before or after the actual winter break. But I think that the big concern for students was kind of that winter break as a, it's a done deal, we get to be completely relaxed, and know that the semester would be starting after winter break.
And would you like me to address, there was one thing I don't know if that was addressed with Ms. Anderson, but one committee was not dependent on the work of the other, and so the work concerning finals was one aspect of the assessment committee's charge, but it wasn't the charge of the committee, and so that is not dependent on the completion of either committee first, and so I just want to clarify that you know, this committee is most likely going to recommend something along the lines of an assessment audit, but it's a little bit more broad. It could include practices, but not necessarily just the final exam.
Thank you. And sorry, Tom brought up a point that I had brought up previously in regards to something that a student had mentioned today. I think that a lot of the things that we're talking about are things that, you know, our stakeholders are bringing up. And so I think this was an important point that I don't think had been brought up before, and that was an interesting point, was the student felt as though that finals in January actually punished students who were in winter athletics, because now that a lot of schools in the area have their winter exams before, they have their final exams before winter break, they feel as though that they're at a disadvantage when they go to compete in some of their end of the season competitions, because they're in final exams in January and the people that they're competing against are not doing their final exams, and so they felt like they had an unfair advantage in some of their competitions, which I thought was very interesting. I hadn't heard that before, so I just wanted to bring that up.
I followed up with college counselors, and they thought a lot about the calendar change with finals before winter break, and for the most part, they are in favor of the move. They basically took a neutral stance and said they're comfortable with it either way, but that they could foresee there being positive benefits in the sense that they're disturbed and concerned about the trend of more and more students taking ACTs and SATs in December, which they have always kind of advised against, and the moving finals to before winter break might help encourage students not to load their month of December with exams, and might encourage some, what the college counselors consider healthy behavior, and to not take the December or ACT or SAT. They also felt that it would take stress off students in that we would have midterm grades sooner, meaning that we could send mid-year transcripts earlier to colleges, which right now are not being sent until the end of February, early March. So by moving the dates up of finals and moving first semester's grading points and things up, that would give students those dates, because colleges begin asking for them in early January. The other thing they thought was that, that most of the deadlines are moving up for colleges, and that they've been encouraging kids for the last few years to get all of their college applications done by Thanksgiving. And that this would help with that as well, because then the students would have another incentive to get everything done by Thanksgiving, so that then they could have the month of December not to do college entrance applications, but just focus on finals. So, you know, what we were finding is, again, that I think it's important to remember for the committee, we know that we were hearing a great deal of feedback, and for everyone who's in favor of one calendar, there'd be somebody opposed to it. And so we really wanted the data to do the direction. And the strongest thing that kept surfacing over and over and over again was student and parent and staff, but really strong in students and parents of finals before winter break. And that's something that as principal, I have been hearing about for a couple years, largely from students and parents, of a real strong desire for that. And the data in the surveys bore that out as well. So to me, that was the one thing that I could rest my hat on as the strongest data point, was a community as a whole desire for finals before winter break, even while I've heard very good, well thought out objections or concerns about what that would mean.
Can I make one clarification from Tom, what Tom just said? I want to make sure we're clear. The committee did not make a recommendation.
Correct.
So the committee was just charged with providing the data and then making an informed choice as to how we want to move. So I want to make sure that's clear, because I
Right.
don't want to misrepresent that.
Yeah, the committee itself never made any recommendation about a specific calendar. We just created a calendar that we thought represented the data that we got, and then took it to you guys.
Elena.
My question was, again, one of the issues that was brought up by Deerfield parents and students, and you've addressed the school chest very well. Are there also some ideas for how to work with Coraliers and their really jam-packed schedule in December?
Absolutely. I think just in all of the arts in general, packed December typically. And so that would be something that we would have to be working very closely with the Friends of the Arts, the department chair for Fine and Applied Arts, Brian Verisario for activities, to come together to determine what this would look like, look at what other schools are doing, because many of them that have changed, how they're completing their calendar, and how they're accomplishing that. And having the ability to have some focus groups and whatnot to ensure that all voices are heard, so we can accomplish some of the amazing events that they're participating in now, and that we don't have to lose that.
First, I want to state that I recognize all the hard work that has gone in. I still have difficulty more with adding an additional change I'll make it a whose implementation will cause additional change for either programming, extracurricular programming, as was expressed during the presentation, if there are unbalanced semesters, the change in the way various staff members who have semester classes will have to reschedule or maybe cram in certain information that would normally have either been reviewed or touched on after winter break. I know that with all the years that I have been I had this perspective on education, that is from the board table, that education has, if you're in education and you're not prepared for change, you shouldn't be in education, and I understand that. What I've seen, though, over the last couple of years here in this district, if there is one initiative after another initiative after another initiative, and an initiative or a change causes 3 other changes, and our staff, our students punting to a certain degree to get to that level, to say that we have done this, and then we go on to the next one. It's an uncomfortable feeling for me. And I believe that there are people who, and I'm normally not called, I'm not written to, I don't get any of that. However, I've gotten a lot of phone calls on this issue, and I was trying to reflect back as a parent, and you heard this evening how long ago I was a high school parent. But I still hear some of the conversations, which still makes me uncomfortable being in favor of this. I hear a lot about, one of the reasons that was brought up a long time ago was the fact that in college we have our exams before winter break. That's not true in every college. There are colleges that have 2 sets of finals before they go to winter break. There are colleges that have 1 set and then another set after because they're on quarters. This is in college. I see a trend of high school going away and high schools becoming college prep. And I see, it's nice to say that we are doing in our district various innovative and different things, and using a word I don't like to hear, but I've heard a lot and I'll use it tonight, higher level of abilities, doing higher levels of programs. I think they were forgetting about the students, and that the majority of our students are the students that are going to have stress no matter when you put a finals in. There is also a large group of students, like my 3 different learners, they never picked up a book over winter break. So knowing that after winter break there would be sufficient amount of time to review and then go towards those finals. I also heard something this evening that I hadn't heard before and hadn't been presented to us, and that is 2 of the surrounding districts that had gone to finals before winter break had their finals immediately after winter break. Now that, to me, is a key piece of information, because of course they're going to be stressed over winter break if the day they get back they have their finals. Our students don't suffer from that. I mean, and again, there are some that are going to be stressed no matter when you give them whatever course or whatever assignment or whatever set of tests. I just don't think, I also know that we as a board don't necessarily have to consider an item for a vote having been presented with the discussion just the month before. It's possible to bring it to us as a recommendation after additional time to sort it through and discuss as a board, and not just discussion right before a vote. So all of that I just said, and I'm sorry for the lengthy comment, but I'm not in favor of this at this time. Possibly later I might be, but I don't know that we have investigated it enough, albeit with all the surveys. I'm not completely data driven. There's a sense to me that there is a large amount of dissent on this issue, and I'm not comfortable voting in favor of it as a representative of the communities, 5 communities as a whole. So I just wanted to explain that to you. Thank you for all of your efforts, but that's where I sit. And I'm not asking questions because you've answered everybody's questions beautifully. I'm not there yet.
So firstly, I'd like to ask, does anybody still need a recap of some of the numbers that Tom presented at our last board meeting? In terms of the 3 surveys, the 6,000
No.
respondents, the percentages in favor, one way or the other? Okay, so that's the first question. Secondly, are there any other questions, or does anyone want to make some comments? If we're moving to
I don't have a question.
do you have a question or comments?
Just a
Okay.
comment.
So if we're done with questions, I'd like to then go back around one more time, and we'll go through a comment per board member, if that's all right?
Okay.
So Michelle, would you like to start this?
Yeah, so sort of in line with Debbie's saying, I do think the presentation was great, the information is great, but I do feel like it's sort of moving quickly. I mean, I'd asked if, we could consider it a little bit longer before voting on it. There still seems to be a lot of variables. This isn't going to go into effect next year, it's 2 years out, so I feel like we have a little more time to ponder. you know, the other schools that have moved to finals before break have decided to start earlier, and we've kind of made the decision we don't want to do that. So it feels like we're trying to like cram in, you know, this semester so that we can switch finals before break. And so we're worried about snow days or, you know, when the holiday might fall. And it just seems like those variables could be hammered out a little bit more succinctly before we voted on this. And then also, you know, it is the whole stress factor. I had asked last time, are we reducing stress over finals or stress over break? And Tom said it's definitely stress over break. But now we're just moving stress to a different level in the busiest month of the year, typically for families. So I just feel like we're moving really fast and would hope that we could just sort of investigate it a little bit longer.
Julie?
Sure. So this is actually not a fun time to be a board member because there is no perfect answer here. And so it's all a matter of, as you weigh the pros and cons, where you fall. I see lots of pros. I see a number of disadvantages. Disadvantages are all the things we talked about, the school chest, which I'm a huge fan of, and so the fact that that would have to move. But it sounds like we have some alternatives there. It is a busy holiday season. We have the conflict with Hanukkah sometimes, although I looked, and I think the biggest conflict isn't until 2025. There's a small conflict in 2022. And, you know, those are things we can work around. I am concerned about seniors who might get acceptance letters during finals week, and it could change their frame of mind. I do think finals are going to be stressful no matter when they are, so we're just moving the stress. Those are all the negatives. I see some real advantages. I do see advantage of a true break over finals. I think kids deserve it. I think they need to refresh. I also see a logical breaking point between first semester and coming back after break and starting with second semester. Instead of what we have now, which is you come back after winter break and there's still 2 weeks before finals, so teachers still need to teach for a week, and it's new material, and then they have to be tested on it, and then they have to review finals, and then they take the finals. To me, that's very awkward. And I've talked to some students who also agree that they would rather start fresh with a whole new semester right after break, and that doesn't have anything to do with finals. It's really more about just creating a natural breaking point between the first semester and the second. I also think the information from the college counselors was very helpful, both about the application timing shifting forward, the advantages of the testing being maybe pushed to a more appropriate time for kids to take ACTs and SATs, but also the fact that senior year, I know that the colleges are waiting on us, and we're one of the last schools who's able to provide those mid-year grades, and that's an issue. We don't want our kids to be negatively impacted because we can't get those grades to the colleges that are waiting. And I think we've answered some of the other concerns we have about like snow days. We'll put that Records Day in there so we have a day cushion. Other schools don't seem to have an issue because they haven't even allotted for an extra day, so we could work through that. There are a number of schools, and just to name them, it's the Main District, the Niles District, Libertyville, Stevenson, Barrington. They've all moved finals before, and yes, some of them had different calendars as far as finals, but they're able to manage this pre-holiday stress, and it sounds like the feedback, both what Tom reported, but also some things I looked into, parents are happy because their kids are happy. So for all those reasons, I actually will support this. I appreciate all the comments that people shared. I am very sensitive to the concerns, but it's one of those where, to me, the pros outweighed the cons, and I want to reflect what the survey data tells us as well. So I will be voting in favor.
Thank you, Jill. Stacy, you were late, or?
She can go first. I mean, I'm happy to talk about that.
Oh, okay, all right. Also a comment, and Julie, you alluded to it, you know, the instructional part of it, as you said, it's strange to come back from winter break and then have a week, or, because 2 weeks is too long to review, and then I'm going to introduce new material. The reality is that with the density of the curriculum in every department, it is an inefficient use of instructional time to have finals after break. That's one part of it. The other part of it is, and this is, I hope a discussion and probably will emerge in assessment and, you know, talking to staff members, is the idea that if finals are producing so much stress, number one, we know from all the research that if a child is taking an exam stressed, they're not doing their best work. So it's not necessarily a good indicator of what they truly have learned in terms of skills and knowledge. So my suggestion would be, let's take a look at how we allow students to demonstrate what they have learned in that first semester. And if it's a matter of going through notes from September that are driving them crazy and they're trying to, you know, regurgitate information that's 3 and 4 months old, that there's something wrong with that picture. That's not how we learn. That's not the kind of skill set they're going to need going into their future. So I think that we can move the calendar and reduce the stress by having that next level of conversation, which is how do we allow students to demonstrate what they have learned? Because that's the whole point of this. So if we do it in a way that doesn't drive them crazy, and as a result, parents, I think we can actually address this in a practical way, but also in a big picture philosophical way as educators.
So this is a very tough issue for me, and I think Julie talked about a lot of the things that entered into her decision. I will say it's interesting, my son recently graduated. I don't think he had a lot of stress over whatever. This is not a personal decision at all for me. I go back to the 2 big points, pieces of data, which show, again, that students, parents, and staff overwhelmingly, if nothing else was included, and admittedly, I know that's been some of the concern, some of the discussion, that we didn't give all the pros and cons and what might or might not happen. But if it was just about, could you do finals before break, even calculating some of the data, so taking out those that didn't care either way, I mean, you have basically 80% of every population saying that they wanted finals before break. And then I honestly had a concern last meeting when we had a discussion about which calendar they want, and I had asked a question, did we ask a straight up traditional calendar versus our new calendar, and we could get a choice there. We don't know, because of the way the data was given, what, and I'm specifically looking at staff here because they're the most evenly balanced, what the people who chose the calendar were now no longer considering, where they would go. Would they say they want to go back to the traditional calendar or to the new one? We don't know. But again, in relooking at the data, there seems to be an overwhelming desire for people to have finals before winter break. So I will be voting for this, but one of the reasons that I asked the questions I did earlier is that I feel it is really, really important that we try to take stress out of finals period, not just stress out of finals week, or when the, Christmas week, which was an interesting way to think about it, Tom, because I actually hadn't really been thinking of it that way about the time period because of a lot of the comments. And so kind of implore the assessment committee, which I am not part of, to really think about what they can do to really address the staff level overall in our students, not moving it from one time frame to another when some people want it or might be better off than the other. Again, I want to thank the group that worked so hard, and at the entire committee, we did ask a lot of questions about a lot of things, and especially given some of the concerns we heard from the community,
So I know the college counselors did sway me a little bit after some of the concerns, so thank you and thank them for giving their point of view and reaching out to people at other schools. Again, this is a tough one. I don't think there's a right answer per se. You know, in an ideal world, I think I probably would have wanted the assessment committee to come first and then to see how much this matters over time, but we're not there. So, again, I'll be voting for it, but I wanted to give my rationale.
Debbie, did you have more comments since
No,
you did?
nothing.
Well, before I go into mine, I do have, David Small could not be here tonight. He actually does have a work exception, but I did not have him call in for a vote. So he submitted, thank you, Chris and Tom and the calendar committee for an excellent job of examining this complex issue. In particular, thank you for the excellent job of reaching out to constituents, students, staff, parents repeatedly to determine their preferences and concerns. As a result of this feedback and the overwhelming broad-based support by all constituent groups, I support this calendar change. I do recognize the changes will need to be made in the curriculum and to the events and activities calendars to support this change. I thank the faculty in particular for their feedback during the evaluation and for their work supporting and implementing this effort. If I were able to be present for this meeting, I would vote in favor of the resolution. Sincerely, David Small. And then I just wanted to make a couple of points. First of all, tons of thanks. Tom, unbelievable with the time frame you've been dealing on and everything else. Thank you so much for just stellar information and a clear presentation to us in the face of many, many layers of questions that involve myriads of departments and staff. So that to Dr. Dignam too, and from administration. There were a couple of things that I think we voiced tonight that I constantly try and step back on, and one of them is school calendar takes time to plan. One of the reasons we did this in February was I had a request from the principals and the superintendent that in light of staffing coming up next month, this would help them in planning for this year and next year. It's not a one-year process. It's constantly a 1-2 year. We never make a change that's affected for that calendar year. So to your point, Debbie, that's absolutely right. But in order to give administration and faculty and families and students the most time to begin planning for this, this was a good time to do it. So I thank you all for rising to the occasion to get our questions answered. But there was other language like we're worried about this or we need to get things hammered out. And the bottom line is we trust our educators, and we trusted you to bring back numbers to us. And if we give you a parameter, we're not going to figure out which 2 calendar days you're going to pull from semester 1 to semester 2. Frankly, it's not the board's decision. You may bring your recommendations to us, but I trust that our principals, our administration, our staff are going to hammer that out, whether that's at the committee level or the administrative level, to do that for us. So I'm comfortable leaving that to them, and I thank you for gathering so much information so that we had voices from each stakeholder group, but in essence still to make a recommendation based on large numbers and what you've heard. As board president, I respond, or try to respond as quickly as possible, to phone calls and to letters that come in, and all board members have received probably about a dozen, maybe even a dozen and a half communications, and we thank people for that and we respond to it. But when we're getting 10 or 12 letters, it seems like the whole world is telling us that this is their one answer. So when I hear that there were 6,000 responses, and I'm not saying they were uniform, but with an overwhelming number in each of the stakeholder groups in favor of one proposition, I, as a board member, want to reflect what my community says. So I thank you for your work, and I too will be supporting this. Chris, did you have anything you wanted to say, or?
No, I just want to thank Tom and the committee, and I recognize how much work went into this, and appreciate the data that you shared for making an informed decision for the Board of Education.
So this is a roll call vote, and if there are no further comments, Sandra, I would ask you, we do have a motion and a second on the floor.
Ms. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Gordon?
Aye.
Ms. Walby?
Aye.
Ms. Hyman?
Nay.
Ms. Culver?
Nay.
Ms. Littlewood?
Aye. Motion motion passes. Thank you all for a lot of work and a lot of thought, everybody, including our board. We move to our next item, which is item 9C, the annual renewal of the agreements regarding the receipt of developer subdivision contributions and indemnification. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the agreements regarding receipt of developer subdivision contributions and indemnification as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
The only thing I'll add, Barry, this is an annual thing that we vote on, is that correct? Are there any questions or further discussion?
Just one. This is usually Julie's question, but I'll ask it. That the agreements are the same ones we've been doing every year, nothing changed? Okay, well, thank you.
Two sides of the table. Any other comments or hearing none? I'd also like to ask for a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Coleman?
Aye.
Ms. Lawby?
Aye.
Ms. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Gordon?
Aye.
Ms. Littlewood?
Aye, motion passes. The next item is action item 9E, the intent to prepare the 2017-18 budget. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent to prepare a tentative budget for the 2017-18 fiscal year in accordance with the intent to prepare budget resolution as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, discussion? Mr. Bowler? All right, hearing none, this is a roll call vote.
Ms. Gordon?
Aye.
Ms. Culver?
Ooh, that was loud.
Ms.
Sorry.
Lawby?
I was so excited.
Ms. Lawby?
Aye.
Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Meyer?
Aye.
I'll talk this over for you.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you. We now move to the consent agenda. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the following personnel actions. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes personnel, financial reports, and Board of Ed travel and meal expenses?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'd like to provide a report on the bills. I met with Barry today. We went through 6 or 7 different bills. Everything was in order. Everything was well-researched. Everything was waiting for me. Thank you, Barry Bolick, my last review of bills with you. Is there any further discussion of the consent agenda? Seeing that there's no further discussion, a roll call, please.
Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Gordon?
Aye.
Ms. Culver?
Aye.
Ms. Lawby?
Aye.
Ms. Littlewood?
Aye, motion passes. Okay, at this point, are there any citizens' comments?
Our lone citizen.
And then there was one.
That's dedication. That
Here
is
we're seeing
dedication.
none other than a friendly face. Hearing none, we are about to move into closed session, so I need a motion for the board to meet in closed session for discussion of personnel and negotiations. No action will be taken in either case. All action is done in open session. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Lawby?
Aye.
Ms. Gordon?
Aye.
Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Culver?
Aye.
Ms. Littlewood?
Aye, motion passes. We are going to take literally a 5-minute break.
Yeah, I have to go.
Then we will meet back in closed session. Thank you to
Are we
everyone.
meeting here?
Yeah,
We
maybe.
can meet here, or we can go to 217.
Would you prefer to go to 217? Let's go to 217.
I just have to go to the bathroom, so I don't care where I go.
Can we move food? Can everybody take some packages? Anyone wants some?